Derivative Jill.
Greetings and felicitations.
Hello, I'm Anti-Derivative Jill, and this is Indefinite Lunch and Infinite Combinations number 59. Today we are reviewing the next original series episode in production order, and that's the Doomsday Machine. And we also have some wonderful friends here today. We have Pop Culture Curator. Thank you for being here. He's going to continue part 2 of his, what is it?
Leonard
Little
Nimoy
Shop.
contract negotiations for season 2 of TOS.
Oh yeah, that's for this show. But I meant tonight on your channel, you're going to have your Little Shop of Horrors.
We ran a little long last week, so my apologies to anybody that was there. But I'll try to wrap up tonight as soon as possible, quick as possible. But thank you, Jill. Good to see you all, and thank you for having me here. I'm excited. This is my number 1 favorite TOS episode.
That's great to hear. I can't wait to hear what you think about it.
Yeah, it's interesting. My favorite and DC Fontana's least favorite. So go figure, huh?
Well, her least favorite. Interesting.
Uh-huh.
And we also have Admiral Teague here today.
Hello, and this is my favorite Star Trek episode of all time as well, Pop. I think it's the greatest episode of them all. It's so exciting. It's what Star Trek is supposed to be. Friendship, sacrifice, and loyalty come together at the final frontier.
Yes, and Admiral Teague is from his channel, Saving Star Trek. And also today, for the first time, we have Mikey, who also has a YouTube channel. And if we get that, oh yeah, the link's right here.
Hi, Jill. Hello.
And I think Mikey has some technical difficulties.
Yes,
thank you so much for being here.
I love this.
I think it's breaking up, or is that me?
No, he's breaking up. Mikey, I'm so sorry, but you are really, really roboting, and we cannot. You're probably saying some really lovely things about the episode, but I cannot. You are roboting quite a bit.
It happens to me all the time, Mikey. Check your connections.
Yes. If you can hook up via Ethernet, it'll work a lot better.
Yeah.
All right. And also we have, okay, so sorry about that, Mikey. I hope you get it figured out and you can come on back. And
the damn planet eater got her. You beamed her down to the 3rd planet, Jill.
Another favorite. That looks like we're going to be getting a lot of that today.
Okay. Oh yeah, here we go.
Oh, here we go.
Mikey is the guy.
Welcome back.
Here in the chat we have Mr. Brown Alliance, and it is also his favorite TOS episode. This is a lot of people's favorites. I didn't know this.
You guys have good taste.
Apparently. And Mark Harkness also, mine as well. I'm afraid that familiar duty requires I miss the stream. So I need to front load some comments and observations now, which is great for the show today because we have a lot of slides to go through and we're not going in scene by scene order today. So this is perfect to have comments to go along with it. So Mark Harkness also says this episode marks the first use of the new engineering set. So the first use of it was for the Constellation.
Very good and very true.
And he also says everyone should catch William Wyndham reprising the role of Decker for Star Trek New Voyages episode In Harm's Way. It shows us a glimpse at the man Kirk knew as his friend before tragedy broke him.
Interesting. He's also in Summersby and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Oh, he is. Well, the
Yes,
New
he is.
Voyages. This is a fan film series, so that's cool. I didn't know he did that. That's really neat. It's
William
kind of a
Wyndham was.
prequel.
It's the 100th anniversary of the birth of William Wyndham.
Mhm. And so this beginning of the episode is just crew realizing that the Doomsday Machine. Well, they don't know about the machine yet. They just know
They know there's a lot of
planets are being
destroyed
destroyed.
solar systems.
Yeah,
Everything's
in
gone
this
but the
sector.
sun.
hmm And Mark Harkness says personal in-universe theory as to why Constellation's registry is so out of line with the others is the class Starfleet wanted more ships than the Council wanted to pay for, so they used a trick that the Navy did with the previous U.S. Constellation. They reported that the Constellation was in need of major repair work and basically built a new ship and called it a repair. Oh, there's another one. This was actually done when the U.S. Navy reported the old frigate Constellation of 1797 needed repairs about 1854. Getting permission to do the repairs, they disassembled the old ship and built a new one.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah, thank you, Mark Harkness. A lot of people very
Yes,
passionate.
very
about
interesting. Yeah.
Inoffensive to what we see on screen. That's the kind of headcanon people like, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, yes. Well, I do enjoy it when
it's
Star
in
Trek is
world,
related to reality. Sometimes it's kind of fun. And hello to Bird of Prey 5. He says this is merely an A+ episode. Well, maybe A++. It depends on my mood.
Bird of
Bird of
Prey.
Prey. Good to see
Kapla.
you.
I want to thank
Hope you're
you
doing
for.
well.
I want to thank you for liking my tweet on my Wordle score. I just want you to know I changed the conditions of the test. I don't like to lose.
You reprogrammed it.
No, I have an app that gives you any Wordle score you want.
Okay.
I just cheated.
Yes, but Kapla, Bird of Prey 5. Great to see you. If you are a member of the Bird of Prey 5 channel, today he's having his membership stream directly after this show. Because it's kind of neat how whenever I have to end this show, very often he might be going live on air afterwards because he streams at 3 p.m. Central.
It's a great show.
Mm-hmm. And Mark Harkness continues, U.S. Navy pulled the stunt 20 years later. They reported that the Puritan Civil War era monitor needed repairs, built a more powerful Puritan, and pointed to the ship's wheel as proof that it was only a repair.
We have the slight implication here that this one was maybe the first one, even though the name's not right, because it's got the Commodore on it. It's a pretty important ship. It may, in fact, be their flagship. It's got their top guy on it.
Oh, yeah, and actually, I have an important question about this. Why do we have Lieutenant Palmer here instead of...
Nichelle Nichols had a prior
Laura.
singing engagement in New York.
No, she's
Okay.
She's, as we all know, Laura Palmer from Twin Peaks had a twin
Somebody doing the
sister.
dishes?
Laura Palmer from Twin Peaks had a twin sister, so this is obviously her descendant. It's Lieutenant Palmer. And I think we see her one more time.
My goodness.
We will see her again at Communications down the road.
Oh, okay, so this isn't her last time here.
She's back one more time. It's Lieutenant Palmer. And like I said, she's descended from Laura Palmer's sister from Twin Peaks.
Cool. Mark Harkness says, the last observation
Cool.
of the next constellation, FFG 62, is currently under construction as the first of her class. Just as the successor to Decker's ship was NX 1974 and sister to Picard's Stargazer. Cool. And he has to go now. He'll enjoy the chat and the replay. Cool. Well, I'll see you later, Mark Harkness. Thank you for stopping by and giving us all of that really cool Navy stuff that correlates to this episode.
I hope we gave your chats due attention. We tried to consider them.
Yes, and so that's what I'm doing right now. Hello to Euler Greg. And of course,
It's too bad I don't drink alcohol anymore.
And Darius Munchausen here says, I'm told this is an A+ episode. I must watch immediately. Wait, you're kidding, right?
Wait, Darius, you saying you've never seen it before? Wow. I think you'll have a extremely great time if you have not.
Ravenscroft 82 says, Hi, Jill. Homesick from work. Good to see you. Good to see you too, Ravenscroft. And he's been looking forward to this episode since I found your channel, Jill. Well, I hope we can live up to that hope, that desire to see this episode. Euler Greg says, For this, I'm actually drinking. And Ploxford says, Received notifications from both Mr. Brown and Jill. Could not resist attending chat. Awesome. Glad you're here.
I just want to know if Euler Greg is drinking alcohol or synthahol, because it's much like alcohol, but of course its effects are easily dismissed.
Yes, but Scotty can tell the difference between synthahol and alcohol, so it is not.
He was emphatic about that. That was a good question that I've asked him when I interviewed him that time. He had a lot to say about synthahol versus alcohol.
Oh, I was meaning actual Scotty from the TNG episode Relics.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got understandably confused. Well, yeah, Scotty shows that he loves real alcohol, both in the...
You interviewed James Doohan?
No,
Yes, through a time machine. I got him...
disregard the question.
Yeah, no. We were mixing up Scotty's here.
No, I interviewed the other Scotty, and I asked him about synthahol versus alcohol, so it's kind of an understandable thing. No, in
you guys.
Mikey, are you okay?
I think the Tholians may be active in this situation.
I know.
Yeah,
I don't know
I'm okay. I would say that you guys remember Star Trek Continues. Star Trek Continues has James Doohan's son, reprising his body in that. You guys
That's
have seen
right.
That, right?
His son plays Scotty. That's right.
We see him in something else, but we won't talk about that.
Poxard says, please remember that disassembling the machine is strongly discouraged and voids warranty. And Poxard says, took a moment to interpret that emoji as a computer. Deckard went straightforward. And Ravenscroft says,
went straightforward.
Was the dude from TMP related to Commodore Decker?
Yes, it was his son.
Deckard tries to keep his distance the first time. And so here's the title card for the episode.
Yes. You were his son, yeah.
Encountering heavy subspace interference.
Yes. This episode aired on Mark Daniels. This episode first aired on October 20th, 1967. The episode was written by Norman Spinrad and was directed by Mark Daniels, one of the recurrent Star Trek directors. So he's directed several episodes.
Can I just mention that I just want to say on this date, congratulations, Mom and Dad. You're getting married in less than 12 hours from the airing of this episode.
Oh, your mom and dad.
Yeah, my parents, my mom and dad, got married 12 or 13 hours after this aired. They got married the next day. It was
on
Friday
October
night.
21st.
I googled it before. They're married on October 21st.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? 1967. So, I'd like to think that my dad went into the wedding, with the same kind of resolve that Commodore Decker had. He knew it was.
They got married the next.
Yeah, they got married the next day.
And Euler Greg is correct. Decker saved billions of people. Quite possibly, yes.
He did.
Yeah, I grew up on Rigel, and we have a beautiful statue to Commodore Decker, and I went to Commodore Decker Memorial High School.
Yes, the Bloxard is a little more conservative, saying at least tens of millions.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't have ended at Rigel. I think also
Right,
have-
but we don't know what Starfleet would have done to
I was going to
just
say
stop the machine.
we have enough people here to say probably what do you think? 5 Constellation class starships with a guy as good as the admiral from Ultimate Computer could probably have stopped this thing. That's my guess.
The Daystrom?
Well, I mean, a lot like the movie Jaws, they need a bigger boat. And Jim Kirk is just smart enough to help them make their boat that much bigger by getting the Constitution running with the help of Scotty. I mean, it's like Constellation. I keep doing that. Sorry.
Yes, the Constellation. Yes, Scotty does an incredible job in this episode. I just love seeing him run from problem to problem.
And he knows exactly what's wrong and exactly what to do. And we see some fun props. I think we've seen some of them before, maybe in Squire of Gothos. Is that what Kirk is messing around with when he starts getting hands-on and dirty? Because everybody's got to get involved in getting the Constellation up to speed when they try to make it work.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Go ahead, Pop Culture.
This was James Doohan's favorite episode.
He's great in it. I can see why. I can see he almost steals it. A great performance by Scotty and by James Doohan as Scotty in this.
Yes, and hello in the chat to Dalek451. He says, "Greetings, Jill, panel and chat. No way I'm missing you talking about this episode."
Hello to Princess Fiona.
Oh yes, I'm so excited. Princess Fiona's here.
And we got a recycled Horta egg.
Oh my God, you're so right. I love the Horta. How did I miss that?
There was something compelling about those nodes on top of the, I guess, whatever you want to call it, the warp manifold. But
that is a new prop for this season. It is with the new rebuilt set.
And some cool 2-man ladders. And the other ladders in the hallway, if you look at them, they're constructed to be used by 2 people at a time as well. They're really well thought out and really cool. And I don't know if they're from the real Navy, but they are real looking and they make this ship seem very, very real. And this episode came in, believe it or not, this episode came in under budget.
Well, on time too. It was a bet that the director had that he could film it in 5 days instead of the usual 6, and he won it, the bet, and $500.
Which
so
is I'm sorry.
So they were given a low budget and they still went under that. That's incredible.
Because it's essentially a bottle episode. Listen to this. The basic budget was $185,000 per episode. They did this one on $176,000, and in today's money, that is $1.61 million. So you can get something this good today.
I have something from this book that references what we're talking about. If I could share that.
Yes, please do. Share.
Specifically about this topic. This is from Inside Star Trek, The Real Story by Herb Solow and Bob Justman. And Bob says, Stan Robertson complained whenever stories were submitted that didn't take place at least partially on an alien planet. Part of NBC's continued demand for planet shows week after week was a basic series concept of exploring strange new worlds. Unfortunately, we couldn't afford to visit a different planet week after week. So we consciously alternated planet shows with ship shows. Most other series called them bottle shows, but regardless of what they were called, their purpose was the same: to save money by bottling up the action. There were few new sets, no expensive locations and equipment to rent, no additional union drivers to pay, and other than the regular cast, no more than a few outside actors, which guaranteed that the episode would be a cheapie. Our ship shows took place entirely on board the Enterprise and cost much less to produce. When Mark Daniels filmed Norman Spinrad's teleplay The Doomsday Machine in only 5 days, it enabled us to average out the expensive episodes and complete the second season slightly under budget. Curiously enough, many Star Trek bottle shows were enormously compelling, as indicated by both fan reaction and the ratings. There we go. Thank you.
And we have a fantastic Saul Kaplan score, just adding the veracity to this. Wouldn't you agree, Pop? The score is one of the best in all of old Star Trek.
Well, not only that, but the score was written specifically for this episode and then later reused many times.
Right.
That's awesome. I love how there seems to be different music for almost every different kind of scene or whatever setting we're in. We get different things.
Well, I was having a barbecue several years ago, and we had a party with people over, and we were listening to the soundtrack to this, specifically the CD. And I had this old man neighbor complain. I'll never forget that. What a jerk.
Can I just say my favorite theme song in this is not the most influential one, which the Planet Killer theme seems to have influenced the people over on another little show called Lost in Space, where there's a guy called Johnny Williams, who went ahead to write a very similar sounding song for a small film called Jaws. The Planet Killer theme and the Jaws theme are very close. They're very, very close. And
I didn't notice that.
And think about this. How great is the Constitution's own theme? The Constitution has a theme, and it's played very sadly, but when the ship comes back to life a little under the care of the genius Mr. Scott, they play the music with much more pride as it goes on its attack run against the monster that killed its crew. The ship, without that it's still a character, the way the Enterprise was a character. And we sort of transfer some of our goodwill that we have for the Enterprise to the Constellation as we see it fighting back, and its engines sound great and its music sounds great.
Yeah, it really does. And William, he does a really great job acting here.
This is possibly the greatest guest appearance of anyone in all of old Star Trek. Ricardo Montalban's episode had more meaning. This one still may have fed into Star Trek the Motion Picture. There's some things about the Doomsday Machine and V'ger that are similar, but that's another story. And I think that this is the greatest acting moment in the entire original series. And no one on screen speaks as they listen to it with his New York City accent, Commodore Decker, explaining the circumstances and how he's being a very reasonable and competent and brave Starfleet commander just a few days ago. And as he's listening to it, Jim Kirk has got a lot going through his mind as he regards what's left of Decker. And Decker is kind of getting it back together and waking up. And I'm not too sure, but I think at this point he's been given some space drugs now, hasn't he?
He has, but we don't know exactly what it is that he's been given.
Bones is a little leery of it. He gives Kirk a look, but this is a big deal. We've got a destroyed Constitution-class starship.
Can I share something about his performance?
Yeah, well, what tells me that he's a great actor is that he thought that this was silly, right?
Yes.
But he did a great job anyway.
He said it was as good as any other TV show. He just thought that they were too serious.
Well, but he also said he did not enjoy working on the show because at the time William Shatner and Linda Moy were not getting along. This is when they were having ego conflicts.
He was also aware that the role had been written for someone else who wasn't available and came in with a chip on his shoulder and something to prove. He and the writer had different visions of the character, but you know what they did? Gosh darn it. Well, think about this today. They compromised.
The writer was hoping, Spinrad was hoping for the actor Robert Ryan, and he was not able to take it. So, yeah, Wyndham was a replacement. But Wyndham was mostly not a headliner. He was mostly cast in the supporting roles. So I don't think that he had a lot to complain about. And it wasn't until many years later that he realized that his character was modeled after Captain Ahab from Moby Dick.
Right, and this is the first time we see the great Moby Dick motif coming into Star Trek, if I'm not incorrect.
That's right, and it definitely comes up again and again, and it fits really well within the Star Trek universe.
This episode shares DNA with 2 movies in a way. Maybe 3 if you want to include First Contact.
Well, yeah, First Contact also has a Moby Dick thing that makes sense.
Now, by the way, there is really heavy subspace interference around the Doomsday
I was going to say
Machine.
also, did William Wyndham...
What's the question? Oh, dear. Yeah, Mikey's having technical difficulties, everybody.
Mikey, you cut out. Can you hear us?
William Wyndham is in Summersby.
What was your question, Mikey?
Oh, I was asking that he did do some Broadway, right, before this?
Yes.
He may even have been an understudy to William Shatner. That's been asserted. You can check that in my research, which is in the chat. Yes.
You mean proven or speculated?
You can check the research in the chat. I'll tell you more about it in the private chat because
Which
I don't
chat?
want to
This
undermine
chat?
this. I'll put it in the private chat. I don't want to promote another source of Star Trek entertainment here, so I'll put it in the private chat.
Okay.
Boy, we have a really good active room in there today. Lots of comments.
Oh yeah, definitely. Dalek451 says, "Watched this episode properly for the first time a few months ago and loved it. I'm so glad, Dalek." And he's Ravenscroft says he's also in Walton's Homecoming and at least one Twilight Zone episode.
Yes.
Right. 5 characters in search of an exit, where he's the soldier inside the
and is he
it's a Christmas episode.
Is he talking about William
Wyndham? Yes, he was
Wyndham?
he was the soldier, and it was the Christmas episode, 5 characters in search of an exit, where they're all trapped inside the toy. I don't want to give away the ending if nobody's seen it before, but they're all trapped inside of a large cone, and they can't get out. It has a surprising ending.
Well, Twilight Zone is always worth a rewatch. And Ploxard says a fan-made prequel to this episode was made. Yes, somebody mentioned it before. Star Trek Voyages. New Voyages, rather. Oh, I hear myself. And
I hear
somebody's
you
got
twice too, yeah.
Somebody's got me playing in the background. Could you please mute it?
This is like in the old days when people would call a radio station and they would say, you could hear them. So can you turn off your radio, right? Please turn off your radio.
Yeah, exactly. Herc 130 says this episode is
you
one
hear
notch
me
above
now?
A+. Yes, I can hear you.
Hell, Herc 130. Slow salute, my friend.
Yeah, one notch above A+ on musical tension alone.
Yep.
No kidding.
Yep. John Williams paid attention to this episode, in my opinion. Also, there is leitmotif. I think I mentioned that before.
An oboe and trumpets. And SP4H is here. Hey, SP4H. He also says, why does she look like she's missing a cigarette? Oh, that lady who is walking by. Yeah, I was able to pause the episode right while she's walking by. I don't often get to catch the yeoman or the ensigns walking around, so I included that slide for that reason. She does. She needs a cigarette, but she can't. She can't. You can't smoke on the bridge. You can't smoke on the ship. And here's the Stream Element Spot is posting Admiral Teague's website, Saving Star Trek.
That's better, Stream Elements.
Yeah. and hello to Kiranthos.
Is that a Futurama reference with Calculon? Because Calculon
yeah. Apparently that's what people say in the Mr. Brown chat when they want the subject to be changed. But the problem is I don't know what we're talking about in order to change what subject needs to be changed.
Yeah, it's kind of confusing. I don't understand.
All it does to me is remind me of Futurama, which makes me happy. So
after I realized Calculon was Shatner, he took on a new context and became my favorite character.
Oh, wow.
That makes 2 William Shatner-based characters on the same show.
Yeah, I know. I thought it was the other guy who.
Zap Brannigan is based on Captain Kirk. Calculon is based on William Shatner. That's the way I would put it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right. And Tiger Stripes is here.
Hey, Tiger Stripes.
Yeah, A+ for William Wyndham alone. Add-in written by Norman Spinrad, and it's A++.
Spinrad has a lot of novels and was mentioned by Google in the same breath as Harlan Ellison as a comparative writer.
Lieutenant Palmer's other appearance was in Turnabout and Shooter. Oh,
that's what it is.
For the last episode.
Yeah, I guess they didn't feel like paying Nichelle Nichols, or she was able to make more money elsewhere.
Yeah, well, she does have a dancing, singing career, so she probably wanted to do some of that too. Like
not be on this show, she knew it was over.
Because Pop Culture says she's not on this one because she had a musical engagement.
Yeah, well, and they can't just walk out and quit like at the end of the series. They are under contract, you have to remember. So they have to negotiate when they're not on an episode.
Kranthos says there are some Borg subspace distortions on the stream. Yes, let's go with that. I like it. Hello to Tiki of Doom. Hey, good morning.
I like it too. Hello, Tiki of Doom.
Such was the power this episode had that millions of people got married the day after this aired. Says Euler Greg. That's funny.
Can they accurately predict that, Jill? I don't know.
Predict what? Oh no,
that they could get married after the show aired.
No, well,
that
Admiral
millions of
Teague's
people
parents
got
got
married.
married afterward, so it was just a joke, I think. And hello to Miss Susie Satin. And Princess Fiona says, so much cooler than looking like a brewery. And this is the top 5 episode easily, says Tiki of Doom. And the fan-made film sequel is called Doomsday by the Neutral Zone on YouTube. Cool. Mikey, your mic gain is too high, says Boxer. Oh, is that what it is?
My mic gain is too high?
I don't know.
I'm
I don't know
sorry.
what it is exactly.
It's the distance of what I have to be from the computer.
Well, the weird thing is your volume is perfect, but sometimes
you're right. You can adjust your sound in StreamYard if you go into your mic settings.
And hello to Lemon Pie.
Hey, Lemon Pie, so good to see you.
And I guess she's talking about William. He really looks like Stephen Collins there. And Gorilla's Random Thought says, Kapla, been lurking in the corner, like the unwanted redhead stepchild. Also, Jill, before you ask, no, I am not hungover. In fact, been more productive than normal. Oh, right, because last night, every time Poxard put a certain message in the chat, Gorilla would drink. And so the story behind it is that we were afraid he drank too much and would get a hangover. But
you should have drank Synthahol.
Well, no, apparently he didn't have to because he didn't get the negative effects.
Oh, good. It's easily dismissed. Maybe it was Synthahol. He did write The Land of the Lost.
Gorilla says, if Decker was thinking like a real captain after his ship was damaged, he should have had his crew abandon ship, then fed his ship as fast as he can to kamikaze the snow cone. Well, but he would have had to know that the ship would have destroyed. They had to detonate something in order to destroy the Doomsday Machine. Just ramming the ship into it wouldn't have done it. So I'm glad he didn't do that. But thank you, Gorilla.
They would do that, but I won't say anything.
Oh, wait a minute.
Did they use a? What was the device they used? Was it a cobalt device? Is that what they said they used? And rigged it to the ship to explode? Is that what they said?
No,
they caused the ship to have a fusion explosion.
They rigged the warp engines. It was easy enough because they were having a hard time not having them explode, was what Scotty tells them.
Right. There you go. That's what it was.
He put a 30-second timer to turn off his fail-safe devices that were keeping this thing from imploding anyway.
Yes, he had a little button to set it, and then there was another button that would detonate in 30 seconds.
He turned off the intercooling fan.
Norman Spinrad also wrote for Land of the Lost, another wonderful series, says Raven.
That is absolutely true.
And Princess Fiona says, it's a shame they didn't talk about the gravitation effects that much neutronium would create.
Now, is that the neutronium that is that what the Doomsday Machine is made of? Is that what she's talking about? Is that what that comment is referring to?
Oh, well, I think the neutronium is what the Doomsday Machine is the outer hull is made out of.
Right, and it's impenetrable to phasers. And I think we have some great video for this.
Oh yeah, we do. We have a video for this.
Pure anti-proton. Absolutely pure.
Captain
Kirk here.
Spock here, Captain.
Yeah, that's the next moment. And then Spock tells Kirk something that sums up the whole episode.
Yes.
If you want to do that now, it's up to you. But I would point out that when when Decker mentions anti-proton and says it's absolutely pure, Kirk is a little bit like not freaked out, but he's like, wait a minute. It's like he's talking about something that can't possibly exist or that's beyond that technology. He reacts to it.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Right.
it also points out that when they overclock the engine of the Voyager, or at least at some point, definitely it's after that we hear about it, the warp core of the Voyager sweats anti-proton, and they use that to treat Tom Paris in episode Threshold.
Hey, would you like to read what Spock says to describe the whole episode?
Is it in the private chat?
It is there now.
We have the video of this. She was attacked by what appears to be essentially a robot, an automated weapon of immense size and power. Its apparent function is to smash planets to rubble and then digest the debris for fuel. It is therefore self-sustaining as long as there are planetary bodies for it to feed on.
Yeah, a robot weapon that purposely destroys entire solar systems.
And that was, I think, the last piece of video I gave you.
Oh, you gave me that? Oh yeah, you did. I forgot about
And this
that.
was if you've ever watched Saving Star Trek, this is in every episode. This is how we sum up how was New Jack Crusher born? And I'm sorry, I'll never mention that again.
She was attacked by what appears to be essentially a robot.
If you saw the show, you'll know what we mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
Moving on.
Moving
Sorry.
right
I'm
along.
very sorry.
It's no problem. And oh right, the main idea of this episode is we have no idea who made this machine.
Yeah, you'd figure that they would trace the completely destroyed galaxies back to see which direction it doesn't seem like it was a very hard thing to track. They just don't seem to have a lot of curiosity about it, and that's fine. But Kirk does kind of put together 2 and 2 and say it's an alien race made it for some long forgotten war. They're gone, but it still exists. It's probably from another galaxy.
Yeah, I always feel like the TNG episode Arsenal of Freedom was inspired by this idea.
I would say that there's a lot. We see a lot of Star Trek world building in this episode. We see a fleet commodore. We hear a lot about command structure. We're going to have a fight by the book later on, that goes on throughout this episode. And really, like I said, a strong performance by William Wyndham, who just brought the right idea to the show and the episode and was able to reach an accommodation with the writer instead of just one of them or the other winning out. You know what I mean? The way it's done in more modern writing. This didn't turn into a fight. It was a collaboration. They came up with a great character. The writer felt maybe he played it a bit too big.
Well, it seems like sometimes when there's creative conflict, it actually turns up something very good. And in this case, that occurred again, like it did in The City on the Edge of Forever.
As a New Yorker, I think it brought out William Wyndham's sense of competition. And he's like, you're not going to shove me in the subway. I'm going to give you a performance like you never saw. And he really does. He gives us a great performance as Decker.
Yeah. Normally, since I'm not going exactly scene by scene, I'm going to read from the book, the synopsis here. So, while investigating the destruction of several planetary systems, the Enterprise detects the crippled hulk of the USS Constitution, drifting lifeless in space. But one of the ship's crew remains aboard and alive. The Constellation's commander, Commodore Matt Decker, in a state of shock. Decker's claims his vessels encountered a gigantic mobile weapon that was pulverizing the planets around it and swallowing them up. The Constellation, I did it too now, attempted to destroy the monstrosity, only to suffer severe damage from its energy rays. In an effort to save his crew, Decker admits that he beamed the entire complement down to one of the worlds in the systems, which was later destroyed by the Berserker. The Enterprise soon tracks down this planet killer, and Spock reveals that the machine is on course for one of the most densely inhabited regions in the galaxy. Clearly, it must be stopped, but with Kirk and Scotty off the ship repairing the Constellation, Decker takes it upon himself to go after the planet killer with the Enterprise.
He's within his rights. There's one thing about this that I consider a small plot problem. Why isn't Decker, as smart as he is, smart enough to get outside the subspace interference and warn that there's something weird coming? Or when he encounters it and everything's all messed up, launch that subspace buoy we've heard about. Have we heard about it yet? Is that a later invention in the plot? Because it seems like he had options to warn the Federation. And I think the difference between him and Captain Kirk is Captain Kirk, after he saw it, his people were better. His science officer was better than Mr. Masada. Spock would have been like, we need to get outside its field, send a transmission, and then attack to slow it down, not get destroyed. I think that the Enterprise would have had a more sound plan.
I think what it was is that the constellation saw that there was an immediate emergency, and so that the fourth planet was breaking up, so they decided that they needed to intervene at that moment.
Well, he said a moment ago in the, in fact, a couple slides back, that they observed it slicing up a planet, an inhabited planet. So that's why he sprung into action. I'm guessing he probably didn't have much time to think about it. I don't know.
That's
exactly,
cool.
Pop culture curator. That's exactly what I'm thinking. Thank you for.
It's awesome and very world building that what Commodore Decker does right there is he does the right thing simply because it's the right thing to do. He doesn't care about danger. He's going to save lives.
Mm-hmm. Although it would have been smarter for him to retreat and go get Starfleet,
or launch that subspace buoy we hear about from time to time with the ship's log.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised that the Planet Killer actually left the constellation in that derelict and no power situation.
I just want to point out that it's the Planet Killer itself that saves Rigel by firing when it does. If that transporter doesn't short out, we don't have any of these problems, and Spock and Kirk probably are going to make it. Maybe Kirk comes up with a different plan, but Spock's like one heartbeat away from being Captain Spock, first of all. And second of all, he's like, well, we're going to have to sacrifice Rigel logically to save the rest of the Federation, needs of the many.
Yeah, no, he was gonna go. He was gonna get as far away from the Doomsday Machine as he needed to in order to contact Starfleet. And in that time that he goes all the way back to Starfleet and talks to them and figures out a plan of attack, the Doomsday Machine could have killed way more people.
I think the fact that it traveled between galaxies gives us some in-world headcanon where we can say it's possible this thing can go faster than warp speed. It apparently has gone between galaxies.
It's gone between galaxies, but we are actually not certain how fast it is.
We're not certain. We just know that it needs to take in
all
rubble.
Of our starships in this episode are kind of debilitated.
We also have to wonder how much power reserve it can build up to. But it's got nothing but fuel in this system. It's just destroyed. And of course, there's no denying it. The elephant in the room here is this is Star Wars: A New Hope.
And this is the stock footage of Sulu looking over his shoulder that they've used over and over in many, many episodes.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that before. And
you have before, and you will again.
Actually, you have to say that Star Wars is this episode.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. And I'm going to congratulate Pop because that is true. And he'll probably confirm this. They kept Sulu's face and head out of frame of the view screen so they would be able to put whatever they wanted in there without having to kind of go around his head. People walking in front of the view screen is one of the hardest effects, apparently.
Well, it was just blue screen at the time.
But they keep Sulu kind of clear of it so they can change what it is and still use that reaction shot, which we see a few times, as you said.
I don't think. Oh, never. It's all right. Sorry. I don't think Sulu's sitting directly in front of it like that. I think that's just the way the set's designed. But I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
No, it is the way the set's designed. I'm just saying it was a really good choice and a really good shot because it allows them to change what's on the view screen with the least amount of effort.
Yeah, I've actually seen YouTubers use that shot for that purpose too. Ploxard says the subspace interference was mentioned multiple times in this episode, attributed to the pure neutronium. And Jim Henry says, I get flashbacks of this episode every time I see a waffle cone. Yeah. Oh, yes. An ice. Princess Fiona says, turn me off of ice cream cones for life.
Yes. The Doomsday Machine was actually a windsock dipped in cement.
Oh, didn't somebody have the foresight? They actually knew what it was before being told what it was.
They knew what it was
I
supposed
forget
to
who
look
it.
like from the writer, and they
No, the
weren't
writer
able
wanted it to
to.
look totally different. He thought he
Right.
was very disappointed when he saw, but what he
Oh,
envisioned
okay.
would have been too much over budget. It was like he
Got it.
wanted a huge device with all these guns and everything sticking out of it, and all this,
He's
a lot of
correct.
detail.
He's correct. So
Oh,
when they remade this with the special effects
Did,
team,
did
and
they
they,
use
they were headed by the Enterprise CGI people, one of the people whom goes all the way back to TNG, where they were just a production assistant, but they'd been with Star Trek long enough. When they redid the CGI for that, they wanted to emphasize those things.
so he wanted it to look more like a machine, but I'm actually glad they went with the windsock because it seems more like, is it alive? Is it not? No, we know it's a robot, but the question is still there, and it's more
It doesn't
mysterious
seem to
this
be
way.
an AI, right? It's more of a robot than an artificial intelligence. It just has a defensive field and it feeds. It's kind of like
Well,
a shark.
What?
I believe that the design, I think what makes it more believable is because if somebody was to create a Doomsday Machine, I think they would keep it simple. And with the way it happened to turn out, it looks like the exterior would be nearly indestructible. So I think due to their budgetary restraints, it actually paid off rather than a big detailed ship with a bunch of ships or guns and things like that. So
I agree.
Absolutely correct. Now, the special effects team that did the CGI put a lot of scarring and nodules, as they said, on the hull. Now, I wasn't able to really notice them, but that's what Dave Rossi, the special effects director for this, said. And he said that represented the weapons that had been blown off over the years and years and years of just fighting and fighting one race after another. And I mean, who knows what this thing has done and how old it is.
Right, exactly. We don't know how long it's been
All we
traveling
know is that
about the universe, how many galaxies it's been to, how quickly it can get from galaxy to galaxy, and
right, if this is what it originally looked like. The only thing we know about the Doomsday Machine is it's undefeated.
well, until the end of this episode.
Don't spoil it.
Oh no, well, no, well,
People have only had 57 years.
well, I figure everybody's seen it, right?
I'm kidding. I'm
Max
kidding.
Redstone says
Max
this episode
Redstone.
is for me like
Okay.
a muck time, where we remember the soundtrack as much as the writing or the special effects.
It's the same soundtrack writer as Amok Time, Saul Kaplan.
And we get Kyle.
I think they're talking about Gerald Fried's music in Amok Time.
Mm. And we get lots of, I love the little poofs of explosions that occur on the transporter every time it malfunctions. And Max Redstone says this
Yeah.
episode did not turn me off the ice cream cones, however. I never looked at a box of bugle snacks ever again. Wow. Now Brian says the rest in peace Calculon reference comes from a character in the Obi-Wan show called Ned B, who looked a bit like Calculon. Poor Ned B was blown up, hence rest in peace Calculon. Oh, okay. Thank you, not Brian. I hadn't watched the Obi-Wan show yet. Didn't know that. Princess Fiona says the Phil's engine room looks like a brewery. Oh, okay, Princess Fiona. Thank you. I was confused by that. Max Roachstone says, little known secret, the third Doctor Who was there and reversed the polarity of the neutron flow. Yes, well, apparently all we needed was inverse phasing. Poxard says photon torpedoes were filled with sprinkles, warheads, and thus less than efficacious. And so, yes, I love how calm and commanding Spock is as acting captain in this episode.
And Pop is correct. It is different authors for the music. Sorry about that one.
Yeah, that's true. There are two.
Well, that's the beauty of modern technology. I was able to instantly check it out, but I bow to his superior intellect.
I
Well,
used
as
to
far
use
as I remember,
anti-proton.
Soul Cap this episode.
Could
Oh,
you
sorry,
repeat
go
that,
ahead.
please? No, Mikey, I want to hear what you have to say. Go for it.
Yeah, no, I was. I hope I didn't interrupt you, Bill. I was going to say that we all know that Saul Kaplan did the main music, but it was John Williams or some other composer that did some of the incidental music for this
Well,
episode.
I thought John Williams took inspiration from this episode to make the Jaws theme.
If you listen to both, it's. I mean, if maybe it's unintentional plagiarism, but that stuff's close.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I have it here. Who does the music?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So Saul Kaplan. Yeah. Exactly. You're right.
Yeah. No, and it is. Pop culture was, of course, correct.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Captain Kirk always appreciates a planetary body, says Darius Winchester. And Ravenscroft says, I love how Spock always gives the raw, unfiltered data. Then Kirk gives context and meaning for how this info drives their actions. God, I miss this show. Yes, me too. And hail to Cardinal Sin. So, yes, I definitely wanted to check out the chat here. They didn't have PTSD diagnosis back then, but they definitely understood the symptoms. And yeah, so he very quickly had PTSD because it just happened to him. He hadn't had any time at all to handle the tragedy that just befell him.
And then they give him stims.
And so the guilt was racking him uncontrollably throughout the whole episode, and he plays it very well.
Yeah.
And Max Redstone says, also, Commodore Decker shouldn't have beamed the crew onto a planet where they wouldn't have been any trouble at all. Goodness.
Trouble at all.
That episode's coming up.
Yes.
What would have been cool is if they would have built a space station in the neutronium shell and then showed up in a subsequent movie. It seems a lot of resource to go to waste, says Princess Fiona. That is a fantastic idea.
By the way, the other Saul Kaplan score is Enemy Within.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Enemy Within. Oh, right. I'm glad he comes back because he did such a great job in this episode. Wish he did more.
He does do a great job with this episode. Like I said, the Constellations theme is amazing. And we hear it in various iterations as the ship has various levels of potency that matches the ship's power.
Mm-hmm.
Wyndham was also in Battlestar Galactica.
William Wyndham's acting credits on IMDb seem to end around 2004. He was like 81 years old in his last title. He had over 400 TV titles as I was like looking at him, TV appearances.
Yes.
So this guy was a professional actor. He didn't really care. And by the way, the members of the away team, the technical guys that are helping out, whatever, they are named after people who are affiliated with the show. I believe associate producers.
Oh, they are? Really?
I have a question about this scene here. I wanted to see if you guys recognize, or maybe I'm wrong.
Sure.
But at this point, I believe there's 3 people in this room, right?
Right.
Okay, because Kirk gives
I see somebody
Scotty
in the background.
Well, Kirk gives Scotty orders to go down and try to get the impulse engines running. And when he does that, Scotty turns and says, "Follow me, lad," to the guy in the blue shirt. And then Captain Kirk immediately points to the same guy to go to that back room there and start working. It says something to him along that line.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, he says, "Come along, lad." There it is, right there. And
right,
then
Washburn, you get in there. See, after I'm saying So Scotty went back to the engineering by himself. Am I wrong?
You're correct.
We do know that there's a Kelso on the ship as well. So Mr. Kelso,
or is that engineering on the other side there? Maybe that's what he's talking about.
I didn't know.
I think that's what it is, Pop.
I thought they're not auxiliary control, aren't they?
They're near it. We know it's near. We know auxiliary control is definitely near engineering, and I don't think we've heard about this feature before on a starship.
I was just wondering if that guy was like listening to orders from 2 different people, or I don't know.
Well, did both of the yellow shirts go back on the Enterprise with Decker? If so, then Washburn or was the only one. Help.
Right. You should say, well, shall I follow you or him? Which one? Tell me which,
Well, when two commanding officers ask you to go with them, you go with the higher rank.
The highest ranking, right. So sorry, Mr. Scott, you're on your own.
Yeah.
I just want to say,
Yeah,
Mr. Kelso
Captain-
really seems to have slacked in this episode compared to Mr. Washburn, who worked a lot harder.
Yeah, Captain Kirk needed his view screen, and then once he gets his view screen, he tells Washburn to go help Scotty.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, that is what happens. It reminds me of when I tell my kid to do something, but then, the dad says, "Come do this instead," and so I gotta wait. Same thing. And Max Redstone says an underlying theme of this episode was meant to reflect the hideous reality of Earth destruction due to the US and USSR both relying on nuclear deterrence and mutual destruction to maintain balance.
The nuclear test ban had only been put into effect in 1963.
Yeah, okay. Then that's very recent. I'm glad they did that.
To them, 36 months earlier, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Ravenscroft said, "It's funny how often budget constraints actually pay off creatively." Marvel
Yeah,
Studios
they made their most memorable episodes saving money. It's got to be true.
Oh,
so
and
many.
Fox-
It's so many
I
people's
think we
favorite.
lost Mikey.
Oh yeah, I guess so. Yeah, well, he's been having technical difficulties the entire stream, so
Okay.
it makes sense.
Good luck, Mikey. Hope you can get it fixed and come back.
Yeah, definitely. Oh yeah. Speaking of which, here he is. Try to test again. And Ploxard says this planet eater is an example of building a power plant and tractor beam system, then pouring the remaining resources into that pure neutronium hole.
And a Doomsday Machine, they do exist. We have one, and so does Russia, and so does China.
It's true. Yes.
Right,
Yes.
and-
The episode makes reference to the H-bomb being an analog to this machine.
The report, an H bomb is so much more powerful than the atomic bomb. We're talking thermonuclear as opposed to atomic in the nature of the explosion. Off the top of my head, a thermonuclear explosion, like the smallest one, would be like a 50-mile square radius of total destruction. This is a really, really devastating weapon, and I believe at the time of the episode there was something like 40,000 of them known to be on Earth.
Well, then, of course, after the H-bomb, then the neutron bombs came later. Those are the ones that were supposed to flatten everything in sight from ground zero.
No, neutron bombs preserved the city, but emitted a lethal dose of radiation to the populace.
Right, but with today's technology, if there is a war, it'll be with an electromagnetic impulse, because that way everything will be intact.
Electromagnetic pulse.
They could take, right, that way they can take over. I mean, with radiation, our land is useless to them, so they want to be able to use up and take our resources and everything we have. So it'll be a pulse, because they know knocking out our power is the best way to get to us. Then they could totally take.
You're speaking of like attacking by having, like, say, setting a nuke off in the atmosphere over the east.
That's how they do it. Yeah, it would be a nuclear. They wouldn't be on the ground. They would explode in the atmosphere just high enough to where it would cause the pulses.
Right, because that would probably ruin all electronics, even the ones that were turned off, because it would be such a strong pulse. It wouldn't matter that would be turned off. There'd be so much ambient electricity. It would complete and overload all circuits. Everything would be gone.
Even cars.
Cars
like
would not
that.
start. Right. Pop is correct.
New cars. Cars. Right.
Yes, much older cars. Older cars would work. Pop is correct. This is something that has been talked about by like defense experts, and the Pentagon has a plan for it. Not that anything's going to matter once you take out all the tech. How they'll tell us, we don't know.
Well, they won't. We won't know till it's too late. The last thing they want to do is have a panic. So believe me, if and when there's a new thermal or global war of any kind, we won't know until we see if we survive the effects. That's when we'll find out.
It's a monsters are due on Maple Street kind of effect once the lights go out and the information's cut off, right?
Well, if whatever happens, if you survive it, if you're not near the detonation area.
That's why I'm glad I live near a target of most of the nukes being near New York City. I'll just go out in the first flash.
Sorry,
And
I know we're
yes,
getting
I
off
do.
topic here.
No, it's okay. And I know I'm notorious for not being able to pronounce nuclear. So I just do my best. Sorry, I apologize. I just
I
can't do it.
encourage mispronunciation. I think it's fun.
Princess Fiona says, "Fun fact: Lieutenant Leslie is named a Shatner's oldest daughter, and Lieutenant Lemley is a mashup of his three daughters, Leslie, Milani, and
Melanie.
Elizabeth." Oh wow! I didn't think about that. That is really cool. Thank you.
If you can see William Shatner, see him. He's out there on tour. It's
And by the
something to
way,
see.
I was gonna tell Darius Munchausen. Yeah, I was gonna tell Darius Munchausen that I recognized his last name from The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, the comedy film that was made by the guys from
Terry Gilliam.
You know,
Well, it was Terry Gilliam,
Yes,
not Monty
Terry
Python.
Gilliam.
It was Terry Gilliam. Yeah.
Right. It's not a Monty Python. There's some Monty Python actors in it, though. The Baron, I believe, is in Holy Grail, right?
Negative.
Okay.
right,
Yeah.
Terry Gilliam.
hmm And so they've got to stop this thing. They've got to stop this Doomsday Machine. That's what this episode's all about: is getting to do that and fixing the ship in order to make that happen, and getting enough power to the ship for all of the things they got to do. And has Decker taken over Enterprise yet? I think they're coming up on that.
Now, this, by
It's
the way,
coming
this
up on
scene
that,
is a combination of really, really good acting and really, really good directing. Like the body language conflict, even if you were to cut off the sound, you can see what's going on here. Decker is creeping in behind Spock and sort of looming over him, and he's starting to wonder whether or not he's going to let Spock go on commanding the ship. And he's kind of showing that he's, he's got what it takes to command a starship, because he kind of remembers Spock's name, maybe because he just knows who he is, or maybe because he heard it mentioned earlier. But he was pretty recently injected with the space speed when he heard it. So I don't know. Like he's getting it together, though. He's starting to get a little focused and a little angry.
Well, yes, despite the problems he has mentally, he is able to hold it together through sheer will and training.
And he makes
and we don't know how long the effects of whatever McCoy gave him lasts. So
True enough. True enough.
And of course, Spock wants to go warn Starfleet because this machine can destroy entire solar systems, and so it makes sense. It's logical, but that's not what happens, of course.
Is that a reference of Rigel? Was that Rigel 7 probably they were referring to, or Rigel 4?
They said the Rigel system.
Yeah, the system.
Yes, all of them.
Yes, that's right. Rigel has been mentioned before.
Spock describes the basic trajectory of the Doomsday Machine to be right at the most populated part of the Federation. So we don't know if that includes Earth, say, but it's going to a place where it can't do anything but harm, and it's going to kill a lot of Federation citizens. So Decker, the thing is, his methods are not as good, and his people make the wrong assessments, or he doesn't listen to them. But his goals are essentially correct.
Yeah, it is.
And he says to Spock, Spock and him. Well, he and Spock differ at this point, where Spock says our primary duty is to get outside the interference and warn Starfleet. And he said our primary duty is to save the lives of Federation citizens. Would you argue that, Mr. Spock? And at that point, Spock just sort of starts to back down from the confrontation and start to calculate another way to win. Or just to control the damage.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, Spock is right. It makes no sense to do this.
I agree. Decker's not wrong either. His methods are what's wrong. He should listen to Spock. Spock is essentially, they have the same goal. I don't know, and also at some point in here, and it might be further on in the episode, the Enterprise talks about being damaged before it's really been hit. Or there's a hit that we don't see.
Oh, was it damaged? When was it first damaged? I'm not sure, but here
Well,
Spock
remember
says,
it was hit, and that's when the transporter went poop.
But,
okay, then yes, then it's been. You're right, exactly.
You're
So
right.
there you go. It's been damaged. That I call that damage. Not having
When they
transport.
make their run on it, though, as they're approaching it, before anything happens in that exchange, Spock says, "We can't take this much longer," which is a weird line.
Yeah, but right here, I really love this line because right after this, you get an intense silence when he says, "The result was a wrecked ship and a dead crew." And there's a very audible 3 seconds of silence. I don't know how long it is, but it feels long.
Now, my question is he doing this to Decker to try to take him down right now by using his human emotions against him? Is that the most logical course of action? Save the ship and that uses humanity against him? Just, I'll use his ego.
Well, he tries to, but Decker is not doesn't. He thinks that he just made a mistake that he's not going to make this time.
Yeah, this is
Right,
Napoleon
don't
said
forget
never.
that he. Oh yeah.
But this
Napoleon
is where
said
he takes over.
Sorry, Napoleon said you should never reinforce a failure, and that's what Decker's about to do. But then the Jaws analogy kind of comes in where they needed a bigger ship. Jim Kirk's going to make their ship just a little bigger by getting the Constellation into this. And hey, I got it right that time.
Yeah, but the way so if I'm not sure if he was doing it, but if Spock was trying to appeal to Decker's emotions, Decker appeals to Spock's logic by quoting regulation at him, and that gets him the chair.
I think honestly he was trying to like take advantage of his mental state to get him to back down. The most logical thing to do in Spock's mind was to keep control and keep in command. That's my opinion. Mm-hmm. And that was my take on why he did it. And Spock's been around humans for a while now, and he knows that they have this emotional weakness as compared to him.
Mm-hmm. And also he's half human, so he understands that emotion too, even though he controls it.
Right, and this character is now very popular in this run of the show. So people want to see Spock doing things and talking to people and having, this interesting kind of, like he's going to end up basically breaking Starfleet regs on Kirk's authority.
Oh, did I say goodbye to Max Redstone? I see here that he had to go. And also, hello to
Snortapoopus.
Snortapoopus Cuber. He's running late. I was fighting a giant space Hoover. Wow.
That's okay. We went on late too. You've missed significantly less of the show.
And you know what really, speaking of seeing people do things, liking seeing people do things, I love seeing Kirk get down and doing some engineering work himself.
Now, this is something I asked before, but maybe Pop can clear this up. We never see, this is the first time we see an alternate uniform for Kirk, right?
Nope.
Cool.
Yeah, this is his tunic. We've seen it before. It's
we've seen it before. We've seen it all the way in season 1.
Right, we've assumed that it's more like casual attire compared to his usual shirt. But
I think we first saw it in Enemy Within.
And what about other Constitution class starships? First time on this one, or?
I'm not sure of the question.
Do we see more than one Constitution class starship in the episode at the same time before this? We just hear about the other ships until now.
Oh, I think you're asking, is this the first appearance of another Constitution class ship?
Yeah, that is exactly what I'm asking.
I think it is.
Yeah, I think it is too. If there is some in court martial, they've been put in later, like they weren't in the original run.
Oh, right. Yeah, they have all those ships at the space station and made it look really cool in that episode, in the remaster.
And I'm just looking at some of the episode now. This is so not Ben Finney's engine room.
Oh, speaking of first, this is the first time, Scotty. I think it's the first time they refer to his miracle working. Worry about your miracle, Scotty. I'll worry about mine.
There's several mentions of miracle working and an economy.
Oh, right. He earns his pay for the week later in this episode. For sure.
And there's right, and this is, like I said earlier, this is the only episode that I'm aware of where they don't send any red shirts to a planet.
Right, they don't go to. They don't
go
to
the planets are uninhabitable, and the idea is to stay away from a planet to save money. Which
Yeah,
incre-
you would. They
you would
said the
never
other
know.
planets that are still there, you'd melt on.
One was had the temperature of molten lead. Spock just kind of scoffs at the idea that anyone could survive on either planet.
Mhm. Yeah, so Decker's attacking attacking the Doomsday Machine, but it just
Right.
bounces off.
He has a new method, by the way. He made a mistake the last time, is what he tells Spock. He was too far away. Now he's going to get right in, right up close, which, by the way, is a little bit of a weird thing because the closer you get, the less power you have, and hit it with phasers point blank at full. So I guess power reserves count for it.
I wanted to mention something. When Spock describes the two innermost planets of the solar system that was destroyed, he says the surface temperature of the inner planet is that of molten lead.
Right.
The other has an atmosphere poisonous to human life. Commodore Decker says he beamed his crew down to the third planet. This accurately describes the first three planets in our solar system.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Neat. And so, yes, the Doomsday Machine is holding them with the tractor beam. And I'm gonna read a little bit from the 365 book. Did you want to add something, Mikey? Oh, okay. I'm going to read from the book here.
Yes, I was going to say that. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, you first.
Oh, okay. Well, you first. Okay, thank you. What I was going to say is, in the previous encounter that Decker had, apparently he had tried to shoot it, and he realized, or maybe he must have realized, that the planet killer not only absorbs planets, but it also absorbs power, anything that's shot at it. So when he said shoot it directly, I thought, you're insane. Definitely insane at that point, because you already failed at that point trying to do that in the first place. And now he wants to kill the Enterprise the same way that he failed.
Right. He's reinforcing a failure, except the deal is the hull is absolutely impenetrable to the phasers. They need a new strategy and they need some time. They probably need to evacuate Rigel. They could probably get some people off of there, but that planet is this planet eater is going to destroy Rigel. There's no two ways about it unless they can figure something out. And
yeah, that's where they're headed. Yes, go ahead.
Well, they mentioned subspace radio's out, so there's no way of contacting Rigel at this point.
Not after the planet killer gets the warp core, that's for sure. Takes out their warp power. At first, they do have a chance. Now, if they did anything, I get the best they could do is maybe try to outrun it. But I think they say their power is being drained faster than they can get away from it. So it's going to basically neutralize them one way or another.
Yes, and Scotty's got the phaser. He's got one phaser bank recharged, and so that's where he's earned his pay for the week. So that's the money being mentioned in Star Trek, which is a thing.
And Kirk's got his TV turned on, the most important thing to every man.
Yes. So now that he has his view screen on, Washburn could help Scotty now.
By the way, Scotty's watching the Yankees on the other TV. He's just like while he's working.
Oh man.
So I'll read from the book now. So on page 178, it says Star Trek was always running out of money, which explains a lot about the series' production values. With few exceptions, landing party missions almost always were shot on a soundstage, with colored gel filters providing the unearthly hues of alien worlds. Costume sets, props, and episodic musical cues were often recycled for later episodes to stretch the show's budget just a little further. Thus, when Gene Roddenberry contacted writer Norman Spinrad and asked him to pitch an episode for Star Trek, it's not surprising that the executive producer also gave him a proviso. Think of a story that would use only the show's standing sets. As it turned out, Spinrad had long toyed with the idea of doing a science fiction take on Herman Melville's Moby Dick, and that was the idea he pitched. Roddenberry liked it, and Spinrad set to work on what became the Doomsday Machine. With the redress of the Enterprise sets standing in for those of its sister ship, the Constellation. The only new element the producers needed to source was the planet killer itself. Spinrad provided a few inspirational sketches and then went on to work on something else.
So Dave Rossi implies that the scarring we see on the Doomsday Machine near where the phaser's hitting it would be a place where it had other weapons in the past that have eventually been destroyed in various battles. And they expressed some regret. They wanted to leave the trail of the phaser glowing orange briefly after it hit, but I think absolutely no effect was better and more true to the story. I don't know what anyone else wants to say about that.
I think it looks good. The writer was surprised when he saw the aired episode. Why, he wondered, did the planet killer look less like a high-tech, insanely powerful berserker than a windsock? Dipped in cement. Ran out of money, Roddenberry apologized. Spinrad had a good eye. The planet killer was a windsock that had been dipped in cement.
The Star Trek Compendium calls it a berserker too. It's interesting.
From what I'm reading, it says writer Norman Spinrad recycled a short story of his called The Planet Eater, which had been roundly rejected by publishing houses. Despite being heavily influenced by Moby Dick, he was able to convince Gene Roddenberry that it would make a viable subject for an episode.
Mm.
You know what? You think about it, there's so many books that are bad TV shows and so many TV shows that aren't good as books. So, I mean, this was always probably meant to be a TV show and didn't work as a book or had limited success.
Yeah, I like when... Oh, hey! Hungry's here!
All right, hey!
Welcome to the stream, Hungry!
Hey, Hungry!
So glad you're here.
I am so sorry I'm late. We had connectivity issues. Oh.
Better late than never.
I still hear myself in the background. Mikey's, are you playing?
So, 1 second.
Oh, that's you, Hungry. Okay, yeah. He was doing that earlier. Sorry to blame you.
While I was setting up, I was listening to you guys presenting this beautiful information.
If anyone...
I'm glad I got here at near the end, but this episode, especially at this stage of it, when we've learned so much and we've gathered so much information as the audience, and everything has gone into like 5th, 8th, 9th gear. Oh boy, goosebumps.
Yeah, exactly. And
a lot of people saying this is their favorite episode.
And there's look at the lighting on this shot that Jill's showing us. Look at this beautiful lighting. Oh.
There's a lot of great lighting in this episode, especially the interior of the Constellation, yes. Where when Kirk is kind of making plans, there's a lot of great stuff where he moves from being in shadow into light as the idea dawns on him to kind of emphasize the storytelling. Like everything's going well as far as production goes. The musical cues are perfect. The lighting is perfect.
100%. So I got in late, so I'm gonna shut up. You guys keep going, and then I'll speak when you need me.
Well, what's gonna happen is when I'm done with my slides, I'm gonna go through the remastered versus the original.
Oh God. So. Okay.
Hello, Hungry Boy. Good to see you.
Great to see you, Pop. Great to see you.
Hungry.
This is like the Council of Love for this episode, isn't it?
That's what it is. Yes.
It's been a while, Hungry. How you been?
And yeah, Sulu's talking about how the Doomsday Machine's snacking on the rubble and the asteroids.
I loved that as a kid. Oh.
It's getting part of all 5 food groups.
Yes. There's the lighting again.
Oh, and this is a great line. Somebody read it.
So you're the lunatic responsible for almost destroying my ship?
Yes.
We're talking to a senior officer, Kirk. I like that. I love his confidence. He's back. Like he's got terrible ideas, but he's back. This guy could sell you a car right now. He's so confident.
He thinks he sees blood on Moby Dick.
Commodore, get my ship out of there.
Yeah, I compared it also to Jaws, saying like he's got his bigger boat now. You know what I mean? He's got 2 ships.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there is no way that Benchley had not seen and loved this episode when he was coming up with Quint.
Or the person who scored the movie hadn't seen this episode and loved it. And if you want to take it one step further, since it's a kind of a copy of Jaws, the movie Gravity might be connected to this.
Okay.
Gravity is the same kind of plot as Jaws.
But look at the body
Not
language.
with my ship, you don't.
The body language here is yes, he's still a ruined man, but now he's relaxed and he's starting to come into his physicality again.
Right. Although when he has minor setbacks, he does again affect defeated body language, and I love this as he and Spock fight for the screen. Kind of, they're fighting over the space on the screen. Their conflict is so well illustrated visually.
Did you guys bring up yet that this character is probably the best portrayal of post-traumatic stress disorder ever made on television?
Yeah.
That has
we mentioned PTSD, but we didn't say it was the best. So you're the one who's saying it's the best.
Okay.
Oh, I said he was the best guest star that they ever had, but yeah, PTSD is created as a term in the 1970s as a reaction to people's experience in the Vietnam War. But they already had combat fatigue, so they kind of knew what they were talking about. And shell shock existed.
Shell shock, yeah, it was bad. It was called shell shock from my grandfather, but very shortly after it became battle fatigue around the time of the Korean War.
And in, I think in the Royal Air Force, they called it a lack of moral fiber. They were really mean about it.
Well, this guy has no lack of moral fiber. He's just, snapped his crayons a bit.
And he's right. He's just got terrible methods. He's got terrible methods.
He's supposed to go for a medical procedure, but
because Spock wants to DQ him.
To.
They want those medical records so they can say that he's not fit for duty. But this fight is great. Mr. Montgomery here does his best trying to control Commodore Decker, but Decker uses all the 23rd century stuff we've ever seen. He uses the two-handed punch. Here it is. An excellent two-handed punch and a couple of other 23rd century moves that are really amazing.
See, this is one of the episodes that always also made me, which I guess it was just me, but I thought that all the captains had went through physical training to fight and defend themselves. But I guess when it comes to like Picard, I never saw any proof of that. That's what threw me off when TNG came on.
I honestly think that that's correct. Yeah, if you're a captain, you got to be just about the toughest guy on your ship, and no human.
You don't remember what happened to Picard when he lost his heart is probably why he doesn't fight as much on TNG.
Worf says there are only 3 people on the Enterprise D that can beat him in combat at one point. I wonder who they are. Data?
Definitely Data, no doubt.
Data.
Yeah.
Does he mean the captain because he respects the captain's intellect? Maybe Guinan because she has magic powers.
Guinan.
Well, she doesn't use it, but she strikes a pose at the cue like she's about to shoot lightning out of her hands.
Well, that always
hit her
remains
with a phaser on kill. I'm sorry, I'm no fan of Guinan.
Well, she has her own phaser rifle, but she has mysterious powers that we never know about. And we never find out about them.
We never find out about, right? Makes
like joke. Because they
is Riker the other one that could beat Worf?
Oh, Riker.
I think Riker might be one of the people he's talking about, but I thought the third person would possibly be the captain because he respects his intellect and he figures the captain will fight dirty and smart.
I'd say the third person.
I don't think so.
I'd say the third person is Deanna Troi because they kept changing her powers every bloody 6 months.
Yeah.
That could be it. Listen, or there was some unknown person that we haven't figured out who could beat Worf because they were like alien strength.
Wait a second, you guys are forgetting about Data. Data is the strongest one on the ship. I mean, come on.
We said Data first.
Yeah.
We said Data first.
Okay.
Actually, Dr. Solar might be a match for Worf because she's a Vulcan. She has Vulcan strength.
That's true. She's still
Maybe
stronger
he meant
than
Dr. Solar. I'd like to see that fight just so I could see her again.
That sounds fun. You'd have to come up with a really good reason to get a Vulcan to fight, though. That they're not just gonna spar for fun.
Well, he turns into a lobster in Genesis, the episode Genesis. He's fighting everything, but it's kind of a lobster.
Oh God! Can we get back to the good track now?
Yeah.
TNG.
No,
TNG
I like
is
TNG,
still good
so
track.
that's why I was allowing it. That's why I was allowing it. But this is a very important scene where Decker has taken the shuttlecraft, and we got to see the shuttlecraft, and he's decided to ram it down the Doomsday Machine.
Now, the special effects people did a real good job here. If you look at it, you can't make out what the name on the shuttle is. It might be the Galileo, but you can't tell. That the shape of the lettering looks apparent and approximate, but it's not. They say in the original episode they reused Galileo 7 footage, but in this, they do a whole different thing. Like when Decker takes off, he flies out like before the doors open, and he almost clips a door. They do a little bit to enhance how obsessed he is and how qualified he is, because of course he has the skill to pilot the shuttle really well.
And this
definitely.
And this shuttle is very different than the Galileo. We see a wall that seems to be right behind him.
Yeah, and also there are certain cues here, literary cues, that they do through the visual. Like I keep bringing up visual subtext versus verbal subtext. Whereas when you go back to those close-ups on Decker, and then through the window we're seeing, and then that shot right there. This also goes back to a short story by Edgar Allan Poe called Into the Maelstrom, because when you look at the shining lights that kind of turn a little way inside the Doomsday Machine, it's like he's approaching a maelstrom, and the gravity with the gravity of this thing and the weight of this thing and his determination to go into it, he's being pulled in just the way the current of a maelstrom is going to pull you in. And once you're in a maelstrom's current, you can't get out again. There's no going back. The moment you start making that slow circle, getting towards that central hole that is going to drag you to the bottom of the ocean and the rocks and the mud and devastation.
And in this case, the force that's pulling you in is the tractor beam on the Doomsday Machine.
Yes. And so this has so many classical vibrations to it, this moment, that it just, even as a kid seeing it in reruns, I just actually said, I hope you appreciate this, Jill. I said, Mom, you have to come and see this one. Mom, get in here.
Yeah, you know what? My mom came over this morning. I missed an hour of prep time because she came over, so I was talking to her, and I told her that she should watch this one because it's so good, and I think it could relate to non-Star Trek fans really easily.
Yes.
And I like the verbal stuff too, and we're stronger with you than without you is one of my favorite lines in this episode because
Yes.
Because Kirk doesn't want to lose Decker.
I singled that line out for a second. If you notice, Captain Kirk is so correct and so right on with the things that he says to Decker here that the line he doesn't hear is "we're stronger with you than without you," because Decker turns off his communicator.
Well, it's so tragic too, because I don't want to use the S word. We'll use self-delete, but that's something that in the 60s and the 70s, people would say to other people who they knew were about to give the big, long final kiss goodbye to themselves. You know,
is kamikaze run an acceptable way to say it?
I don't know. Nothing surprises me on YouTube, so
By the way, I loved this effect.
Oh God, yes. Oh, boom.
Pure anti-proton, absolutely pure.
And
And Spock understanding humans and showing he understands humans here by saying the right thing.
It isn't just a human thing. Vulcans value life above all other things.
And they despise waste.
Well, I would say this is directly addressing Kirk's emotion, though. My condolences.
True.
Right? He's trying to comfort Kirk. And maybe, who knows, logically, he thinks the right thing to do is to keep him at peak performance by saying the right thing. But this is very humane of Mr. Spock. Somebody's got their speaker on.
I know. It's been happening the whole show, so I don't know what's happening. But
And I like this, and this is a writing flourish that we don't get in modern television. He says, it's regrettable that he died for nothing. And then because Sulu is so good at what he does, we find something out right away.
Yeah. And so, right. So at this point, what he's saying is correct, but then they turn around and they make Decker's sacrifice meaningful.
And now we've got Star Wars: A New Hope. We have one piece of technical information to destroy your planet destroyer. And
do you think the shuttlecraft's explosion might have done some damage, is what Sulu says.
Right, and it doesn't appear to have damaged it, but it's messed up its power signature. So Kirk doesn't necessarily know that what he's going to try next is definitely going to work, but he's not about to give up. And by the way, we could do a whole podcast on just Decker on that bridge. Spock trying to get around regulations, accusing him of trying to self-delete on purpose. That's the first time he tries to relieve him of command. Decker just not having it from Spock, a really good confrontation, and just a lot of great drama in this episode.
And when we go back right there for the people who especially you watch it in your 20s and you've learned a little bit about science, when Spock refers to more than 96 megatons, and we know what 50 megatons could do.
Right, 50 megatons is a city-killing nuke.
Well, 50 megatons actually. If you go to 100 megatons, which was what the intent of Tsar Bomba would have been, the Earth would have been unlivable. We would have done ourselves in.
Well, that's the whole idea of this: is what if we've created these horrible weapons that outlast us and continue to do harm?
Yeah, this is such a multi-layered episode, but you guys keep going from here because oh boy.
Well, you're absolutely right. That's exactly the point that this episode tries to talk about, is the destructive power that we already had at this point in real history.
Yeah,
and even the shape of the thing at this point, the Doomsday Machine, it's vague but distinct. And you look at the biggest mushroom clouds and explosions; they're vague but distinct. So, I mean, the artistry of how this, even though a lot of it was done because of budgetary needs, what they came up with was so visually, poetically beautiful in this episode.
And you got to credit the CGI team for trying to stay pretty true. This episode might be most improved with the least amount of bad intention or any kind of you can't really Monday morning quarterback the decisions that much.
No.
I think it looks beautiful. And also the 1960s set design of the original inside of the ship, the auxiliary control room, the new look we have at what's going to be our engine room from now on. It's all great. It's all just great.
And yeah, it's absolutely wonderful. And as is Scotty working in Jeffrey's tube.
Scotty basically has to fix 2 spaceships in this one. It's like Scotty's really shines, right? He fixes he gets the Constellation sort of running. Then he gets back to the Enterprise and has to start fixing parts of that have failed him.
Yeah.
He has to get the transporter going again.
He's got to fix the transporter twice.
Right.
As a kid, I have to say, this was the only time I thought Scotty may not succeed in all his tasks in the episode. I thought, okay, this may not work out.
We don't talk enough about how much Mr. Washburn did, right?
Yes, and then Spock tells Scotty to try inverse phasing. I love that.
That's what I always
when I
try.
First saw this, I wanted to tell you guys my reaction the first time I saw this, and I was literally on the edge of my seat, just a little kid watching it, and I'm like, I think Kirk's gonna die, and I didn't think he was gonna get out of it, at all, all the.
That's how they shoot it too. You're right.
Yeah.
By the way, just some trivia. Tom Hanks has cited this as his favorite Star Trek episode, so you're not alone.
No.
I like that. Those
and I think the CGI,
Hey, Darius.
I think the CGI remake did a good job too.
Yeah.
They did a great job, and
my slides come from the remaster.
I also have to say they do some great spaceship acting.
And there's the wall that we rarely ever see right there. And if you listen carefully in this episode, as they're walking, you can hear the boards under their feet creaking.
I was not aware.
Listen, crank it up the next time you watch that one scene. Right as they're casually walking, you can hear creaking under their feet, so you know they're on a platform. And also the new CGI effects. Apparently, there was over 200 for this episode, which was the most out of all of them.
This one had a lot of new effects. Yes.
The claim I heard was there was 104 special effects shots in this.
I have to admit a small cheat that'll make Jill laugh. I've got QuickTime open in the other screen, and I'm looking at the old original version as we're talking about it.
And I'm watching the new one. It's just on my TV.
Yeah, I'm going to show it in just a minute. We're almost through the episode. Here they're describing what you were talking about before, Hungry. The H-bomb was the ultimate weapon, their Doomsday Machine. And we used something like it to destroy another Doomsday Machine.
Oh, yeah, I just meant that they give us this information all the way at the end, but we as the audience, we're picking up on that without being told. It's the great show don't tell aspect of screenwriting and filming and directing. And this episode, I think, are we about to get into how wonderful it is in general now, or are we going to talk more about specifics and slides?
Well, yeah, I agree. The real aspects of it, the comparisons to the H-bomb, they're there, but they don't overtake the episode.
It's a light touch, and let's face it, this was pretty unambiguous. Nobody's like, we need more, gigantic bombs. Like, there was 40,000 H-bombs. Everybody felt we had enough. I think at the peak of the Cold War, we had enough to destroy the surface of the Earth 8 times over between both countries, both superpowers. So no one wanted more. It was an uncontroversial idea that the weapons were dangerous.
Yeah, but the thing about this particular episode is that the subtlety of transmitting that information when the actual subject they're talking about is not subtle, as Teague is saying. It's not a subtle situation people were living in. People who were old enough remember being terrified, even in the 80s, of an atomic or nuclear outbreak. That was a threat. Some of us are old enough that we actually were told to duck and cover.
I did that. I ducked and cover in school, and I also said this is what 4 years after the Cuban Missile Crisis, where people were lined up around the block to go to confession because they thought the world was going to end.
Exactly, but
these were reasonable people, and that was not an unreasonable fear.
But therefore, see, this episode to me transcends the genre and the time. This is the best storytelling for film and television, not just of science fiction, but of any television you can get. It's like a 49-minute feature-length film. If you cut out all the crap that people had to put into a feature-length film in order to get the distributors to put it into theaters, you would get this, and it is perfect as it is.
Well, yeah, and they do borrow from this, in my opinion, and I think it's supportable for Star Trek: The Motion Picture. We see something very similar to the Doomsday Machine in the form of V'ger, although Nomad is also part of what we see as V'ger.
And if I'm a little scatterbrained, I'm sorry.
Yes, and if you do want to go into your review, sure, let's go ahead and do that. We'll do our reviews, and then we'll look at the remaster versus the original.
And hail to Darius Munchausen in the chat.
Yeah, hail to Darius. There's lots of great people in the chat I haven't said hi to, like DJ Ronnie G.
Princess Fiona.
Yeah, Princess Fiona's here. Also, Gap After Dark.
Hey, Gap.
And the remarkable, intelligent, salient Ploxard.
Yes, Ploxard. And Matt G. Yeah,
Snortopupus Q Burr, the greatest.
Snorty.
We thank you all.
And Marcus Iron. Marco Iron.
Well, it sounds like you've already started your review, Hungry. Do you want to review the episode?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to jump the gun there.
Go ahead. No, you did get excited, so I don't want you to lose that. Go for it.
Yeah, it's 5 a.m. in the morning here, and I've just had my first coffee.
Oh, man.
But I mean, that's kind of a funny thing to jump off of because, because I don't know if any of you remember having your first major caffeine hit, right? When it first really settled in, you thought, oh my God, this is heaven. That's the way I felt as a kid when I saw this. And then let's say you quit coffee for 6 years, and then you have your first like triple shot latte. That's the way it felt when I watched this episode again as a teenager or in my 20s. I mean, the creative rush, the appreciation, the adoration that you feel from this episode, if you are a science fiction fan or just a hardcore storytelling that pulls no punches fan, when you watch this episode, it always comes back and gives to you. It's like, I hate to sound bad, but it's like the narcotic with no downside. And it's just every aspect of it, particularly the old one, but even with the slides that Jill was showing, every single part of this, every single frame of this episode gives me joy and causes me to almost sweat appreciation.
Mm-hmm. So,
Good review.
so what?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great review. What grade letter do you want to give it? A grade letter or some
We
kind
have
of
to
rating?
create a new letter in the alphabet for how good this is.
Right.
The Horda. The Horda supersedes an A triple plus. Okay, the Devil in the Dark supersedes that for me. This one is it's like a tenth of a millimeter behind the Horda in terms of perfect. The Horda's
Wow,
always,
that's close.
yeah, it is. So for me, it's technically in the film days in horse racing, it would have been a tie, which almost never happens in horse racing. But for this one, I would say a million pluses. Devil in the Dark is a 1,000,001 pluses. So this is if Devil in the Dark did not exist, this would be my all-time favorite Star Trek episode and one of my top episodes of anything science fiction on television.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you, Hungry Boy, for being here today, even though it's so early in the morning for you. I'm
Yeah,
surprised
actually,
you're able to
it's
make
still
it.
pitch black. It's still pitch black, and the birds haven't started chirping. But I want to hear everyone else's reviews now that I blathered on. Go, 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 go!
Yeah, okay. So keeping the origins and the true intended purpose, really, of the Doomsday Machine as a mysterious alien robot that consumes planets is kind of what makes it so terrifying when Deckard encounters it and loses his crew. He develops this unstoppable obsession to destroy it, and that's where the episode shines for me when William Wyndham does this incredible portrayal of a Starfleet officer who's gone off the rails because of a tragedy, and yet he still holds himself to be able to command the Enterprise for a while. And that's pretty impressive. I love this episode for a similar reason that I love UFO, which is to watch everyone doing what they're supposed to be doing to get things done. Every scene you see people, what do we got to do? This is the thing we're going to do, and we're going to do it right now. And how can we work together to get this done? And the amount of engineering on this episode is fun to see. And Scotty goes from problem to problem with his expertise on both ships. And some other engineers are working around the ship, like the ones who have to work on the communication station. And I understand. I don't know. I just enjoy seeing everybody at work. And Palmer, Lieutenant Palmer, does a good job in Nichols' absence. And so I was glad to know why she wasn't there. I didn't know why. So hearing that she was at a musical engagement, that helps with that. So thank you, Pop Culture, for that information. And I give this episode an A. So what do you think, Admiral Teague?
Oh my gosh. What is there to say? This is Star Trek at its peak. It's going to stay at this level for quite some time. Everybody who follows this show has a lot to look forward to. I would say Pop Culture pointing out some of these lore things. This was when lore was important. You know, you could make some mistakes about the lore here because it's starting to develop. We do a lot of efficient world building in this episode. Like we find out stuff like, you know, and we hear it, you know, again in Bread and Circuses, you know, Starfleet captains, a starship captain, a special kind of guy, a little more capable, a little more resourceful. And you have to wonder about the relationship that Matt Decker and Kirk had before this. Maybe like, you know, like a younger brother kind of relationship to him. I mean, it's really well acted. I think Wyndham's voice acting is really good because he's able to sound strong when he's strong, weak when he's weak. And Captain Kirk's appeal to Matt Decker is the one I use when I ask for subs. We're stronger with you than without you. It's one of the most Star Trek-like lines ever. And I would say the best scene of this episode is probably when we see Decker listening to himself on his own log, having kind of a recall and coming back while Kirk tries to assess what happened to this once great man who's a Commodore who he respects. It gets across that right away the dialogue is so precise and efficient. I can't imagine a man like Matt Decker doing this, right? I mean, it's out of character for Matt. So A+ for a lot of reasons, and a great improvement on the set. It's going to look this good forever. We've got a nice new engine room. We've got some new stuff, and we reused a couple of props. Is Kirk's tool from Squire of Gothos that he's messing around with when he's trying to like fix whatever he's fixing when he's cross communicating with Scotty, trying to get the constellation up to snuff?
Mm-hmm.
He's got the beacon from, is it Squire of
He
Gothos?
does.
Yeah. So I love when they do stuff like that.
It does.
Yeah, definitely.
Just before you finish off, Teague, I have a question for you. Do you, considering your professional background, et cetera, do you think that the fact that someone had reached the level of Commodore put extra weight on his shoulders versus if he had merely been a captain or commander?
I think it does to a point, but this 5-year mission that I have, in my mind, decided it seems like that's the only place for a Commodore here, right? Is that he must be in charge of the Constitution class ships in the 5-year mission. And I just think that he was as good of a captain as Kirk, and maybe Kirk proves to be better over the long run. But at the point they start this mission, he's about 10 years older. He's a little more experienced, and you just can't put the youngest captain in charge of the 5-year mission. So Commodore Decker here, yeah, he's got extra responsibility. You could say maybe 12 ships worth of responsibility, but in a lot of ways, those captains have autonomy. And he stays in character. When he gets to the Enterprise, he acts exactly the way you would expect Kirk to act. If we lose the Enterprise and Kirk ends up on the Constellation, he's going to co-opt control, and he's going to take over. If the only person there is someone like Mr. Masada or someone else, he's going to say, step down, I'm taking the center seat, we're going after this freaking thing. But he probably would have had better methods.
Definitely. Yeah. Possibly. No. But one thing we're sure of, we're not sure exactly what Kirk would do, but we're definitely sure that Matt Decker inspires Kirk to carry on with his idea afterwards. Oh, I think I'm hearing myself on your mic, Mikey. I don't know. It's kind of strange.
Yeah, and it's a great writing beat that the moment they say, it's a shame that he died for nothing, Sulu's like, hold on a second.
So
we
what
don't
happened
see that anymore.
Took down the power of the Doomsday Machine. Yeah.
Right, and I just want to say, character work. This doesn't seem to come from anything else except Sulu being a really good observer, because he's the helmsman, right? But he's taking power readings on this thing. He's being very thorough. And I just think, it shows that Kirk, if anything, his strength is that he has a loyal crew of friends who are highly, highly competent. And pop culture will know this one, but Sulu now disappears for a while, right?
Well, he's already been, right. Yeah, right. The Green Berets, yes.
Yes, right. Yes, pop culture curator has told us that Sulu goes off for a while to go work on the Green Beret. But I also do want to say, before we get to pop culture's review, I want to say hello in the chat to the Comic Relief Crusader and also to Captain Infinity. Great to see you guys.
Hail Comic Relief Crusader. That's a great show that'll be on later tonight.
Mm-hmm. And so, pop culture curator, what do you rate this episode?
I give it an A+. It is my favorite. I think William Wyndham did a fantastic job. What some people would have thought would have been over the top, but I think it fit perfect for a man that was obsessed and yet tragic because he saw the death of his crew. I do think he did the same thing that Kirk would probably have done if he was in the same situation. So it shows that he does have experience. I do understand that the grief and why he's unable to let it go. about, because he also, you got to remember, he blames himself for the death of his crew. So any true captain would be it would very destroying for their self. So he really didn't have much to live for. That's why I think even with Kirk trying to encourage him, don't do it. We're stronger with you than without you. A captain who had unintentionally caused the death of his entire crew, I don't think he felt that there was a future for him.
He's going to the Tantalus colony. Yeah, he's definitely in a lot of trouble. He's not going into space again. He's permanent ground assignment at the very least. Kirk loses one guy, and they're going to slap him down. This guy lost a whole crew.
There was a story, I think it was Japanese, several years ago, where a ship went down. Everybody died, the crew and the passengers. The only one that survived was the captain. And he was not punished, but he was ridiculed. And he took a little boat and went out to the same location where the ship sunk and jumped in.
Wow. He had certainly seen Titanic.
How sad is that?
It is.
I know.
Well, there's also people that survive. Like we've had people like will survive, like an airplane crash. So they're the only survivor. They will suffer remorse and guilt.
The choice of words Decker has right before the end, and he opens up the window so he can be fully horrified. We have to remember, Decker. He's not only does he want this, he feels that it should be uncomfortable for him. He doesn't have to open that window. He doesn't need to really ritualize his own deletion. And he says, I've been prepared for death ever since I killed my crew. And I just want to point out, he has an extinct New York accent. He has like more of a Knickerbocker accent. You would associate it with someone like FDR. And he sounds much more educated. He has an educated New Yorker's accent, and he can sound condescending quite easily, which is a drawback to the New York accent.
Yes.
But also sometimes when he's talking about himself, that condescension is applied to himself in this episode.
Yes, he has the same standard. He's got an even standard, and but like just the way he delivers a line, like he's like Mr. Spock.
Yes, and the important line that follows the one that you said was the one that comes right after that goes along with Pop Culture Curators Review. The commander is responsible for the lives of his crew and for their deaths.
And when he's commanding, he's really commanding. When Kirk is communicating with the Enterprise, Spock tries to answer Kirk's questions directly, and he shuts him up. And then Kirk says, I want to talk right to Spock. And then Spock goes for his communication panel, and Decker waves him down and points to the communication panel on the chair. He wants to stare him down while he talks. It is just a great confrontation. So well directed.
Hey, Mikey, do you have a review for this episode?
Yes, I do. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you so much, Jill and gentlemen, for allowing me to be a part of your wonderful panel today. I apologize for all my previous, things that weren't working. But for what I was able to get into, I appreciate it. When I first saw the original episode, I did give it a B+. That was my initial grade when I started this chat earlier. But then the interplay, like you said, between Wyndham and Shatner is just classic, and it can.
Mikey, your microphone is treating you very badly, and I
know.
Mikey's microphone
I'm
needs
so
to go.
sad. I'm sorry.
No, it's not. You're doing great. It's the bloody StreamYards. Honestly, it does this to people randomly all the time. Yeah.
Anyway, like I was trying to say, my like I said, I believe that when I did see the remake on Sci-Fi Channel, the remastered, the one that Jill was showing today, and then of course I got to understand the dialogue a little bit better between, like I said, Shatner and Wyndham. I thought then I decided to give it an A- because for the way that the drama effect was and the way that the special effects definitely were enhanced and made it more believable and more frightening. Definitely agreed with that. So that was what I give was an A-. I upgraded my call. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, you definitely can do that.
Wow. I don't know if there is a better episode of Star Trek. I got to say, this defines the A+ to me.
And so here are some of the differences between the remaster and the original. So here's how the constitutions look.
Yeah, I hate to say it, on this one I do prefer the remaster. It's I know it's people frown on that, but the remaster was really well done.
I think so too. It looks great. But the windsock is fun too.
If they, you know what, if they had rabbit holed this idea and overthought it, it might not have been the great story that we got. Things happen for a reason, and you see things like Gene Roddenberry, the collaborator. Like, I believe he just kind of like does a script polish on this one. This idea comes from a lot of other people. He knows when to step back. He ran a program well in the days before showrunners, as we know them now.
Yeah, exactly. That was Gene's major talent, is being able to bring talented people together to make dreams come true here.
And these disparate bits, right? This original story about this abandoned piece of mining equipment, and then to take the Cold War motif and put it on there, and to give us, this attack run is definitely cooler than the original, as great as the original was.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And here's Spock with a honey dipper in his ear.
Yep.
Oh.
Right? Is that what it is, Jill? It's the ear transceiver, to be honest. But
is that what they call it, a honey dipper?
I believe it's called the ear transceiver. Not
you know what? That could have been the initial. I was just gonna say that could have been the initial front tooth.
Now here's a question for Pop. Isn't the shuttle taking off in the original series, that's farmed out to the people who give us UFO later, right? The special effects.
I think Paramount had their own in-house unit.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think the shuttle taking off was the only thing that they got from the other effects house.
Would it be possible to go back a couple frames where it shows the rear of the Enterprise? One more. Maybe I can't remember how many slides back. There. That last one. If you could go.
Yeah.
The Planet Killer is bigger in the newer one. The ships are smaller in proportion.
No, it's the angle that threw me off. The rear of that warp nacelle, I thought, was the bottom of the Enterprise, the shuttle bay. I thought there was a mistake in the graphics. I don't know if I like this angle for the camera because it hides the shuttle bay and it kind of throws you off if you don't notice. Sorry, but you can go ahead, Jill.
But can I quickly say one mistake you'll see on and off through this episode, especially early on, is the Enterprise is flying around and maneuvering, but they forgot to put the CGI warp engine, the CGI impulse engines on. They're not lit up when they need to be a couple of times. There's a couple of mistakes in the remaster.
I actually like the original shuttlecraft here. It looks really nice.
Ditto.
This was the only time they changed a shuttlecraft takeoff, but yeah, I mean, it's a great Star Trek prop.
I don't think they needed to in this case.
Maybe it was overkill, but I think it did add to the character of Decker and showed that he was an expert pilot, and it also sold that it was too late to close the doors because they deliver that line, and then we see a much lengthier takeoff where it seems more stoppable. Like they made his getting out of there seem a little more inevitable. It served the original story. I'm not saying it was the best thing to do. A lot of people don't think it should be changed at all. I myself don't mind the changes in this particular episode. I think they did a good job.
I think they did a great job in this episode, except we don't need the shuttlecraft. The shuttlecraft was perfect.
Yeah.
The effects guy made a lot about how he felt strongly about it.
He did what
he did?
And you were mentioning UFO. Yeah, and you were mentioning UFO.
They
that was in Twickenham Studios, and they did as in scale similar to what Star Trek did. The way they had their rooms and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the whole Anderson
That
stuff
to me
had
was
a.
awesome.
I mean, this for me, just to break in here for a moment, preferring the windsock, jumping off what Mikey has just said. Imagine the horror if UFO was remastered by people who watched the series. Imagine the visual horror of that. Certain things were accentuated, certain things were de-accentuated, and so for me, I also get like pop culture. I also get into the metaphysical films and horror films. The original Windsock, the original version of the Doomsday Machine, to me is more beyond the ken of man. There's more of this translucent, unearthly blue glow to it, probably due to the limitations of the technology of the time.
Yes, I prefer the original as well. Yes, sorry.
And it seems more to fulfill what is being stated in the script of, I mean, is it purely a machine? Is it some form of life that is based off of machinery? All the mystery of it that creates the horror of it seems to me to be more exemplified by the original 60s version than the current version, because sometimes we're looking at things happening to it in both versions, and to me it is more clear what is emotionally happening with the Windsock than what is happening with the later versions, which seems much darker and much more silhouetted, and it's an attempt to be sinister, but sometimes something can be sinister with direct clear colors than in muted and more detailed shadow and light.
Yes, I prefer the original because it was semi-transparent, the glow.
Yes.
So, yeah,
I wonder why they dropped the glow of it. That was really neat. I liked it too.
Well, that's just it. The new one to me, well, it just looks like a CGI
that's
model.
what bothered me too, Jill. Was the fact that they dropped the glow. Yeah.
Well, it's gonna look CGI-y because, of course, it was they did the remaster when they did it, and when they did it, it was great CGI, and now it looks a little dated.
Good for it, Scott.
Yes.
Well, like the asteroids are all smooth and round. You know, there's just. I know, but we have to take what we get.
What about the interior of the beast? How do people feel comparing then versus now with the interior, where we see the spiking lights of alien technology energy?
I mean, sort of a volcano looking for something to destroy, just floating around in space, right?
But I mean, then versus now, how do you feel about it?
Right.
I prefer the original.
I'm glad there are two versions.
Yeah, I'm happy to be able to watch both.
Yeah, I think Jill and I both agreed on some points that the color of it, the enhancement, that's to me that's what I felt added a little bit more to the story itself, gave it more of that.
Oh wow, I'm so sorry, Mikey, that you got cut off there, but we had 55 votes in the chat. We have 82% giving this episode an A- to an A+.
You don't know what it is.
Who gave it an F? Who was the spoiler? Who had to? Somebody did that just for fun. I do not believe that was a good faith F. It's funny. It's funny that they did it.
Speaking of which, we had a surprise guest reviewer. Okay, so I was disappointed that Scotty R37 could not be here today, and so that so I asked him to record a review for me. So I'm going to play that now.
Excellent.
Hey, Jill. And hey, panel and chat. Sorry I couldn't be there today to help you guys review the Doomsday Machine. But I think you'll understand my absence when I give this episode an F-. First things first, where are Chekhov and Uhura? Why is Sulu sweating so much? Why won't they give any more lines to Mr. Leslie? From the plastic-looking special effects to the over-the-top acting by that Bill Wyndham fella. Ugh. Too much. Where did Dr. McCoy go at the end of the episode? Does the Enterprise not realize that they have photon torpedoes? Why are they only using phasers? It's just such a missed opportunity. And quite frankly, the disregard in the rank structure between Kirk, who is a captain, and Decker, who is a Commodore, that would get you drummed out of the service if, thankfully, Commodore Decker, destroyed himself in a thoughtless effort that only gave a minuscule amount of information to make it so that the Enterprise could completely unbelievably destroy the Doomsday Machine with the Constellation. Anyway, that's an F- for me. And if you would like, please come at me with pitchforks and torches. I'll talk to you guys in the future if I survive. Well, thanks, Jill, and panel and chat. I am sorry I can't be there to review the show with you guys, but I just wanted to give my grade. Obviously, this is an A+. A space battle episode that is solved with ingenuity and not a single photon torpedo was fired. William Wyndham is tragic and amazing as Commodore Decker, and the character interplay between McCoy and Spock is fantastic. Spock and Decker is great. Kirk and Scotty working together. Love it all. Couldn't have an episode without John Winston as Mr. Kyle or Eddie Paskey as Mr. Leslie. Yep, A+, 10 out of 10. Watch it again. Love it with the new special effects and without. I hope to see you all soon. Oh, and by the way, McCoy wasn't at the end of the episode because, wow, he was hella busy. He was in the sick bay because there were a lot of severe casualties on Deck 3. So that's what I heard. All right, see you next time. Bye.
What?
I'm assuming the first one was sort of like a lighthearted, trollish review, and then he gave his real thoughts. Is my take?
Yeah, exactly. That's what happened. He gave 2 reviews.
Yeah, you know what? You can't be wrong. He had it both ways.
I asked him for one, and he gave me 2, so I just played both of them.
Scotty loves to play devil's advocate. I was on one of his shows, and we were discussing a certain film at one point. And he went total devil's advocate. He even said, okay, I'm going to go devil's advocate here because this is what I do. And I think this may have been one of those cases. So for the first one, I'm going, oh, what? Oh, no, I think I'm catching into the joke here. And then he starts the second review and went, okay, we're just going classic Scotty. Got it, fine.
Of course. Well, do you expect anything different?
By the middle of the initial take, I'm like, no, he's trolling us. I can tell by the tone of voice.
Mm-hmm. No, it cracks me up every time. I love it.
He probably had to have 2 scotches to get through the read without laughing at himself.
What happened was he was split in half by the transporter, and one Scotty gave one review, and another Scotty gave the other.
Do you mind if view of haters versus?
Do for you, Jim.
I said, give me the brandy.
I think that's what.
Oh. that was so perfect on 3 levels, Jill.
Hey, Stark of Iron.
Yeah, hello, Stark of Iron. I'm glad you're around. Speaking of which, the chat did give this episode mostly an A. We did get a few people voting C's through F. Surprisingly, somebody gave this an F.
I think we know it is.
12% gave it a B, And so now I've got so much chat. I need to figure out where to start from. So that'll be the fun part. Is scrolling up.
This is the part in my show where I put up confused O'Brien looking up in the air.
Yeah, I know it. I saw like
I have a special like I'm behind on chats like thing I put up where it's just like O'Brien and Dax looking incomprehensively at all the chats, like Jesus Christ, look at all those comments.
Mm-hmm. Well,
we're nothing
I
without
have
the-
quite a few. You're right. We aren't. Then it's been
Last night.
so amazing.
where it
And
stopped.
there are so many intelligent, awesome people in the chat.
But shout out to Alex Kurtzman out there in the chat giving this
There
episode
are,
an F.
Are you kidding? Is somebody named Alex Kurtzman in the chat? Oh, you mean
No, like the only person who can hate this is someone who. I mean, come on, you're either joking around or you have an agenda. See, maybe you could defend. I don't think you. If this is an F, you don't like Star Trek. I'm sorry.
Teague, I think it's a matter of Scotty, and you know this term, committing to the bit.
No. I'm talking about the poll now. With Scotty's take, we all know he was having some
No, I
fun.
think he gave the F. I think he was committing to the bit, and he gave the F to back
Oh,
up his joke.
Okay, so
It's
I mean,
possible.
assuming it's not Scotty, right? Assuming it's someone else. If you gave this episode an F and you meant it, maybe try cop shows, maybe watch something else. This is not for you. I mean, there's westerns, game shows,
No, Three's Company. Reruns of Three's Company. That's what they need.
That is a valid form of entertainment, my friend. And I will meet you at the Regal Beagle in an hour. That's the name of the bar on my flagship. No guine in there, ladies and gentlemen.
So to go back to the chat, Gorilla says if it was defeated, then we wouldn't have an episode.
I think
Maybe he
he's
means if
referring
it
to what
was defeated.
I said. The only thing we really know about this thing is that it's
episode.
very old and undefeated.
Mhm.
Right? Obviously, it's only going to lose once because everybody who's ever encountered it lost everything they ever had to it.
Yeah, and Ravenscroft says this is an incredibly knowledgeable and entertaining panel. So thank you guys for helping me out in
Thank
terms
you.
of earning that comment from Ravenscroft.
I'm proud to be part of that comment and maybe the least deserving person of it, but I will take it. Thank you.
And he says that the character of Decker seemed like Kane, played by Lloyd Bridges.
It's actually Captain Queeg from the movie Kane Mutiny, and that's why he's messing with the data tapes. If you watch,
I think Ravenscroft was referring to the Battlestar Galactica.
Okay, I'm sorry, but I guess I'll complete the thought. I might as well. There's a great Humphrey Bogart movie where he plays sort of a broken man and a broken ship commander himself. And much like this, he's relieved the command of his ship for a series of things. And his problem is, like, when he's nervous, he starts clicking ball bearings together. And that's what this guy is doing with the data tapes. He's fiddling with them and fidgeting them to show that he's nervous and conflicted.
I did notice he enjoyed playing with those tapes. I was wondering if that was a thing the actor brought to the role or if that was written.
Google like Kane Mutiny and just watch Humphrey Bogart's testimony, and he's just clicking the ball bearings in his fingers, and he's like, "There was a storm coming in, so I was afraid to risk my ship," and he's trying to like explain his way out of cowardice.
Oh yeah, Jim Henry says watch Decker fondling the computer tapes, reminiscent of Humphrey Bogart in the Kane Mutiny with ball bearings. Wow, incredible.
Validation. Sometimes it's instantaneous. Thank you, Jim Henry. You are my favorite person in the chat today. Although I love you all.
Max Redstone says, finally, I enjoy all of Jill's mispronunciations. Okay, everyone, have a great rest of your start date. And so that happened like an hour ago. So he's been gone for over an hour.
You want to hear words badly mispronounced? Sub to Admiral Teague. I mangle the English language.
Yeah, when I do it, it's accidental.
No, I do it for comic purposes, like when I call them the Archons. I'm sticking with that one.
Tiki Doom says, I wish the Planet Eater would eat Ryza. Would save us from so many cringe episodes.
That was the next system. It's in the Rigel system, right?
I like Captain's Holiday.
Hey, which planet does Diana Troy come from again? Which planet does Diana Troy come from again?
Betazoid.
Okay, let's just
Beta
nudge.
Z. Beta Z.
Betazoid. There you go.
Correct.
Let's just
Well-
nudge the Doomsday Machine in a certain direction, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but the problem with using the Doomsday Machine for our own personal purposes is how do you stop it after it's had its fill? It's going to want to go after a planet you don't want it to destroy.
I'm
You
kidding.
know what? It ate all the inconvenient planets that they couldn't go back to because they were too complex. Like the shore leave planet, it ate that one. That's like the last thing it got before they encountered it. It's like some of these planets they just couldn't go back to, and that's why the episodic Star Trek is so much better than what we get now. Could you imagine a 10-hour Doomsday Machine story? Oh my god!
No, that would be too much.
Yeah,
You know,
remember this episode's red shirts.
That's why you should let me watch New Trek so you don't have to. I recently experienced seeing Return of the Jedi, and it had been thoroughly ruined by the stuff Disney's put on as so-called Star Wars. When they're fighting Jabba at the beginning, all I could think of is if Boba Fett could take out that Sarlacc with no problem, if he succeeds in throwing our heroes in there, it's not going to change this movie. They'll just off the Sarlacc and move on in like a minute.
And Princess Fiona in the chat says, "Is it that easy to steal a shuttle?" This is a really good point. I would think you couldn't open the doors without bridge permission.
He's the fleet commodore. He's got an override code. In-world headcanon. In-world headcanon.
Yeah. If you want some plots filled, just ask him.
Admiral T does Star Wars. Will indulge in Star Trek theories. I was going to be Star Trek theory, but apparently there's a Star Wars theory. So.
Well, it is a great point on Princess Fiona's part, and she brings
She's
up
right.
great points all the time. I'm so glad she came into the fold. But the thing is that there were things that Star Trek could anticipate back in the 60s, but things they could not anticipate, like easily controlled key cards that could, in like 2 seconds, remove somebody from the ability to open a door.
I would just say that in world, we could easily say that the fleet commander would know a few things. He seemed to know which shuttle to steal, right? He left them the shuttle that they need that holds passengers. He took some other kind of shuttle that seems to have a wall right behind the cockpit. It's like more of a runabout design.
There was an animated series episode where they tried to introduce the key cards, but I guess it just didn't.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Thank you, Jill.
You're welcome.
Yeah, in the animated series, they tried to use it to activate the doors to the actual shuttle bay. Yeah.
I'm figuring if anyone can hotwire it, it's another Starship Commander, right? Merrick is going to tell you soon if he hasn't already. Starship Commander is a very special kind of person, and this guy is and by the way, do not make fleet captain in Starfleet. I mean, look what happens to poor Captain Pike, and now look what happens to Fleet Captain Decker, the Commodore.
Could you read this from Princess Fiona?
Princess Fiona has amazing comments, and I always love when she comments on my videos and is in my chat. Welcome, and thank you so much for being here, Princess Fiona. You're the best. Decker, now you got to it's Decker, but Decker says the thing is miles long. A neutron star is 12 miles in diameter. The machine should have the gravity somewhere between a star and a large planet. Shooting it is like attacking the sun.
Standing ovation.
I would, yeah. I mean, and also, just reinforcing the pointlessness of what Decker is doing when he turns around and goes after it with the Enterprise.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that definitely puts the whole thing into a different perspective when you think of the astronomy of the situation.
How many movies come out of this and how many movies this presages and has the same idea. I mean, the meta is definitely Star Wars 77, especially after they get that little piece of technical information after Decker does what he does. Many Bothans had to die to get the information.
Yeah. What are these books you posted in the chat?
Oh, okay. I spelt his name wrong. That's Norman Spinrad's book catalog, if anyone cares.
Oh, cool.
Those are titles by Norm Spinrad. That's Admiral Teague is a little bit dyslexic.
Ploxford says, I do agree that the planet killer should have its own gravity well. Probably part of a regenerative power plant.
They say it has a complete conversion drive, is how Spock describes it, I believe.
Correct.
Now, we also, I mean, if this thing came from another galaxy, it must have enormous power reserves or be able to hit some kind of insane warp because it goes between galaxies. And also,
It's possible.
The one fan theory, and I don't know if this is retcon or fan theory, I'll say it again, is that it has some association with the Borg. I personally scoff at that.
I don't like that, but going off your point right there, the thing that is ironic about your point is that one of the beautifully horrific things about this beast is in the original and in the new version, newish version, it looks so slow and ponderous. It is a juggernaut that is not going to stop. It's a behemoth. It doesn't matter how fast you are. It is going to keep going no matter what happens.
Yeah, just to be clear, they do indicate that it's at least as fast or faster than the Enterprise, though. Like they're just barely outrunning it.
No, but it doesn't look that way when you're watching it.
No, I would agree. And also in the newer edition, the ships, they seem to have made them smaller to make the Doomsday Machine itself appear much larger.
Hmm.
Yeah. I was gonna say pop culture that you mentioned both Pike and Decker being commanders, but don't forget that Kirk was actually a witness to 2 deaths. Oh, okay, I'm sorry, Teague. He was actually a witness to 2 deaths because remember, Will Decker was assimilated by the V'ger probe that was supposed to be a Lieutenant Ilea.
Right, and if books aren't canonical, then Will Decker just has the same name because that's in Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek novel. But I mean, I think we all agree that that's canonical. There's only one novel that everyone here is probably going to say has enough value to be called canonical, and that's Gene Roddenberry's own novel. Let's face it. It isn't, but it is. Does anyone want to say that he's not Decker's son? Right? It's just a theory. It's in the book. It's not on screen.
Yeah,
he's absolutely
it
Decker's son. I have no doubt about it. We don't get confirmation on screen, but how could it not be true? We know that
from what I heard.
Go ahead, Pop. I'm sorry.
Well, from what I heard, that it was in the original script for the motion picture, but that they just didn't use that.
Yeah,
but it was in the script.
It certainly was in there for when it was thought of to be a TV show, because that would have been a great episode where they came to terms over it.
Well, they either didn't film it or it ended up on the cutting room floor.
Well, think about it. They do reuse the same idea with Picard having been responsible for the death of Jack Crusher 1, the cool Jack Crusher, who we only see as a ghost from TNG.
Right.
So they wanted that. They wanted that plot element. Gene Roddenberry liked that. I mean, this is the second time in not too distant, not too short a time that Captain Kirk's actions, not directly, but Captain Kirk's been involved in something that's made a widow of a child that we're going to see in some form. It takes a lot longer to see Will Decker, and I say it again. I just see Captain Kirk walking down there to tell young Will Decker that his dad, he died making a difference, trying to put the best spin on it he could, and maybe young Will Decker sort of hating Jim Kirk,
And Matt G tipped $1 today. Thank you, Matt G. That's always fun when that happens.
Thank you, Matt G.
Yeah, Bloxer thanks you too. And Princess
Maybe
Fiona
that was a subscription to the Jill fan club, huh?
Oh, Princess Fiona says Loxana could best Worf. It seems like everyone beat Worf's ass. It was a running TNG joke among us.
Everyone knows that joke. It's that Worf gets beat up and only wins a fight here and there across the entire run of the series. He gets beat up to show how tough the alien is a lot, and poor Worf and Worf's stuntman take a beating.
And Darius Munchausen says, yeah, well, Vulcans have super strength, super healing, and super hearing, and they have psychic powers, and they can survive without their brain.
They're not the only ones. I've been doing it for a long time.
Well, for a while anyway. It is threatened that he's going to die without it eventually. Why would anybody want to be human when they could be a Vulcan? That could be why all of my shows on my channel are named after Vulcan kind of things.
That's why I have PDB on my show. His grandfather was half Vulcan.
I believe that.
Nice.
That's why he's so smart.
Actually,
he's
to
Vulcan.
be fair, in terms of physical casting, PDB is the most perfect Vulcan ever. And I say that as an illustrator.
He's a perfect Vulcan. I also think that he could play a command type captain.
Yes. Well, he's got the presence, he's got the veritas, the gravitas, etc. But he's got the bone structure and the body language. And every time we're talking to him, you can see him. If we ask him a question, his face immediately goes into this resting pose of, I must consider this from 1,000 angles.
That's the beauty of the Saving Star Trek panel, is I have people to back me up, research, and we do it all, and we come up with the right answer.
And none of that was mocking, by the way. None of that was
of course
mocking.
not. PvP is absolutely brilliant and fascinating to listen to. You never know what kind of information is going to pull from.
Nicknames.
I'm very proud of my co-captain and fellow members of Saving Star Trek. PDB and Dark Helmet are both
for
great.
A lot of the Vulcans. Yeah, I had a lot of nicknames for the Vulcans from like each different series. Like if you look at Sarek, obviously he's, from first glance when you see him, he's definitely, Spock's father. You could tell. Like it's just, it's the
Yeah, you're getting interrupted again by some kind of network issue.
You look at T'Pol, you're like, that's a teenage. And you've got Tuvok in Voyager who just seems lost, even though he's trying to use his, intelligence. So there was a lot. I mean, there was a lot of different, attitudes and at play with each of those Vulcans in those series.
I'm being exposed to a lot of Tuvok right now and a lot of Tim Russ, and he was considered to be Data as well. He was like in the final 3 people who were going to play Data, and the last couple of episodes I've seen featuring him, as much as I advise you not to follow Tim Russ on Twitter because he's just absolutely a fountain of horribleness, I would urge you to watch those Voyager episodes that focus on Tuvok because they have been very good. The Doctor and Tuvok seem to stand out most in Voyager.
Yes, I do really enjoy Tuvok's performance as a Vulcan, as a full Vulcan.
Right, and we see him in one of the movies too as like a human. He's like the navigator of maybe the is it in Generations? He's one of the navigators.
Right, he's the navigator of the new Enterprise D.
Yes, but as a human.
He'll be a Vulcan on Tuesday.
He's in. I don't remember the name of the episode, but it's like
he's in the episode where they clean off the Enterprise with a pulse. Enterprise Mine.
Yes,
Starship Mine. Starship Mine.
Right.
Can I ask a question of the panel, please?
Oh,
may I ask a question of the panel, please?
Sure. I am almost ready to go. I gotta go in about 5 minutes.
Then I'll shut up. No, it's all right.
Oh man, but I'm gonna wonder what the question is. One last question, and then let's.
It's a yes or no question. It's a yes or no question. Because I got it here late. Did you guys address the fact that oftentimes we talk about the Enterprise as a ship, as a character herself? And did you guys say the Constellation itself was a character in the same way?
I did say that.
I was thinking about that, and I didn't write the notes for it.
Said that.
But you're right.
I did make mention of how the Constellation was a character and also had its own music, which plays at different intensities according to the power level of the ship. When we see the ship beaten and broken, it's played sadly on like a lone bugle. Yes. But then when Scotty gets the ship going and it's starting to avenge its crew, its music plays very proudly, and it's very, very, very powerful, and it helps this episode. And Star Trek used to be complete and amazing TV. The lighting in this is great. The sound in this is great. The story in this is great. The effects are great. And the music helping this along.
Well, even in the original, which I'm looking at now, the interior, especially when Kirk gets there, they've taken about, maybe 30 hours to spray paint the burn singes on the interior, showing how ruined this vessel is, but she is still capable. She's still there. She can still take things on.
And it's not Captain Spock makes a distinction. It's not really any kind of android. It's a very limited, it's not even an AI. This thing has a sensor and a power sensor. It acquires something, destroys it, and then if something comes near it, it attacks back. I mean, the only use for this weapon is to tow it into an enemy's space and turn it on and flee. Flee from your own weapon. This thing is a very, very unpredictable and dangerous weapon to turn loose. No wonder these people were destroyed.
Oh,
I don't.
Yeah, definitely. And so I have so much chat today, so I'm just trying to read some of them, but I do have to go. So let's see what I can read.
Engagement is up. Everybody's checking
goodness.
out the
I
amazing
know.
anti-derivative Jill show. And gosh knows that I am just honored to be here on this panel talking about perhaps the strongest and greatest episode of science fiction we ever get.
Oh,
George Lucas watched this movie.
Oh, yeah, and I
watched this episode.
I didn't even read the rest of the book either. It said page 179, at the time Norman Spinrad received the assignment to write his Star Trek homage to Moby Dick, he was told that actor Robert Ryan had expressed an interest. See, you guys already mentioned this stuff though, in an interest in appearing on the series and would likely be cast as the story's Ahab, Commodore Decker. It seemed like a good fit. Ryan, once a Marine drill instructor at Camp Pendleton, California, made a career out of playing tough as nails characters. From anti-Semitic killer in Crossfire to a fierce agent gunfighter in The Wild Bunch. So Spinrad shaped Decker's persona with Ryan in mind, only to learn later that actor William Wyndham had been given the role. Apparently, Ryan's schedule had precluded his appearance in the series. Wyndham's take on Decker was softer than the writer had anticipated. Rather than a vengeful force of nature, his Ahab was a tortured soul whose guilt over the death of his crew drives him to deadly obsession. Nevertheless, Wyndham's performance is strikingly powerful and made a lasting impression on viewers. At 86 years old, he remains a popular guest at Star Trek conventions.
Now, yeah, he would. No, he's older than William Shatner. He would be 100. He was born in 1923.
Well, this book was written at a certain time.
Right.
So
I'm making. William Wyndham, I believe, passed in 2008 or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So.
But he's in movies all through the 90s and into the early 2000s. Like I said, he's in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles as an overwhelmed ad executive. You see him in the beginning. He's in the first half hour of the movie, maybe the first scene. He's in the whole world of John Hughes.
Posthumous Saturn Award. Yeah, he got a posthumous Saturn Award for his writing in TVs and movies.
And by the way, he does a lot more sci-fi in the sense of he's in a sci-fi movie that we all probably love, an Escape from the Planet of the Apes. He's the president of the United States in that movie. So basically, it's all his fault. Because by implication, he'd be the same president who sent out the first probe and that gets all this started.
Yes,
and you're to kill a mockingbird.
Mm-hmm. And you're correct. He died in 2012.
Okay.
As Nora Puperscuber says.
But I'm just looking at the top of this guy, IMDb for this guy. Escape from the Planet of the Apes, Uncle Buck, To Kill a Mockingbird. I mean, this guy was in everything. Ally McBeal, Chicken Soup for the Soul. I mean, Jag, that was a popular show for a long time. This guy was he's in Summersby, which is a bad American version of a better movie called Return of Martin Gare. But he's in Summersby from 1994. Judging Amy, that was a huge show. True Crime, Boy Meets World. I mean, this guy
Boy Meets World. That's funny. I used to watch that when I was a kid.
This guy had range.
Paula Beater. If you're still here, hello to Paula Beater Gamer.
This guy had range. She was in Murphy Brown and Camp Candy, the cartoon. Batman, the animated series. He's Ethan.
Do I lose all my science fiction cred if I say I really liked Murphy Brown?
No, that's fine.
And Sean Carter's here. I've never seen Murphy Brown, really. I think
enjoyable.
It's like a political show, right?
No, she's a media person, but she reports on politics. But Captain Archer's in it.
Captain Archer.
He's in it for a while. If I choose to view any movie or TV show that has a Star Trek actor in it as an away
Scott
mission.
Bakula.
Yeah. any Star Trek, any movie or TV show that has any connection to Star Trek, I just view the movie as an away mission. Seventh Heaven, it's an away mission.
Orange is the New Black. It's Janeway in prison.
Right, it's an away mission. Mrs. Columbo, just a holodeck program.
Don't you dare say that. On
Mrs. Columbo, an away mission.
Well, I also heard a lot of Star Trek actors were in Cheers.
By the way, I have to throw out these 3 show names or 4 show names. William Wyndham's credits include Magnum PI, Knight Rider, Airwolf, and the Jetsons. Hungry, Airwolf.
I can take it or leave it, but I did like him in Magnum. I was a Magnum addict as a very young man ever since it started. And I do love seeing Star Trek actors in different genres, and it always brings a sparkle to that different genre show. It's like a side dessert to a main dessert, and I adore it.
He was in Newhart. I mean, this guy does A-list work his whole life. Like I said, 400 TV credits alone. He's in a bunch of movies. He's mixed up in the John Hughes-averse.
But you and I have spoken about this, Admiral Teague. The thing is, I am very much a character actor person. So if somebody is really good as a character actor in science fiction, that's going to have a positive splashback on stuff they do in other genres for me.
There is no better character actor than this guy who survives from the 40s into the 2000s as a character actor. And may never have been a lead. I just don't know enough about his career. I just know that in this episode, he creates one of the most memorable characters. He has a sense of honor, and you have to wonder if Captain Kirk wouldn't have done the same things. I mean, this guy had his own Spock, his own McCoy, he had his own Uhura, and he lost them all. And I don't know if anyone else noticed this, but the situation reverses itself, whereas Decker beams his people down and they're helpless, pleading to him to help them. Friendship, loyalty, and sacrifice come together on the final frontier, where Kirk is alone, well, with Scotty on the other ship, or no, he's alone on the other ship, and his people have to work together to save him, and they do it out of loyalty and friendship. They're willing to sacrifice themselves to save their captain.
Can't disagree.
But it's the reverse of what happened to Decker. His crew saves him, whereas he couldn't save his crew. It's just the constellation was not kind to Commodore Decker.
Well,
hey, Jill, welcome back.
Hey, thanks. I
love when that happens to me on my stream.
Right. Well, my microphone got disconnected, so that was fun. And the Comic Relief Crusader gives this episode an A+, and Snortapoopus says, "I'll give you one guess about the F."
Yeah, we pretty much know who it is, and you know what? That's well played. It's funny. Funny enough.
The Comic Relief Crusader says,
I was going to welcome back, Jill.
Thank you.
I was just going to say that Tim Russ, when we were talking about it real briefly, and I mentioned it, I think I told it to Pop Culture too on a previous stream. I did the 1-season series that was on NBC called The Highwayman, which had Sam Jones from Flash Gordon and Jocko, the guy that did the Ever Ready Australian ads, as his sidekick. That was the time-traveling trucks. Somebody called it that. But Tim Russ played the mechanical genius on that series, and I got to meet him. So he was very nice. But this was just before he was gonna become Tuvok in Voyager. So I mean, to see him go from that role that he was doing as Montana in the Highwayman to becoming Tuvok as a Vulcan. I thought that was a great transition.
That is pretty cool that you got to work with him.
Yeah, he was very cool.
Sweet.
Yeah, very humble too.
Once again, back away from Tim Russ's Twitter feed. It's very, very horrible.
Oh yes, I know. I follow him, but then I also have him muted.
I looked at it for about 5 seconds, and there was like 25 insane tweets.
But
he's worse than me. And I'm from Queens.
To focus on the positives, like how he's an amateur astronomer and he likes to play the guitar, the electric guitar.
Sometimes
I didn't know that.
Yes.
I had to
I like
to turn Tuvok off.
I like his YouTube. I like Russ has a good YouTube channel.
I've been through this before. I
actually
let
favored
Patrick
it.
I let Patrick Stewart say that he was ashamed of being Picard and stuff like that, and it kind of it created problems for me. And I don't need Tim Russ like retroactively making me have issues with Tuvok. I want to enjoy this Star Trek, and maybe when I'm done watching my way through all those episodes of Voyager, I will turn his Twitter back on. But until then, I don't need to hear his brand of. He's so much worse than me, and I'm a terrible Twitter follower.
It says Darius.
Let's all agree that sometimes we have to separate the artist from the art.
We're confusing Deckard with Decker. It's not
that's exactly.
Deckard.
No. That's the joke. I think that's the joke. it's a joke on the.
That's the joke.
Never-ending obsession
Darius
of finding out if Deckard is a replicant.
Regard.
Is my mic on?
Hey, hail, Commodore Jim.
Oh, Commodore Jim is here. Great. And so is
entered
Cameron
the chat.
Ryder. Yeah. Tiga,
We have a
Queen.
lot of luminaries
Oh
here.
my. Yeah, no, so many. I can't even. I couldn't even read all of it because everybody's too awesome. That's why. Also, because I gotta go. I gotta go pick up I gotta go do real life stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Do you want us to finish the chats for you and you can blow it up on your phone, or you want to end it? It's up to you.
No. I'm good. We can just all I need you guys to do is to tell me about your work on YouTube.
Well, no, we need to know what happened in the poll. Oh, we closed the poll, right? Or is it still open?
Oh yeah, I didn't close it. You're right.
It's got a lot of votes.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to see how far it could go on its own.
Did really well.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we got 61 votes, so I'll end it now. But it's still at 84%. 83% for
We are a democracy here. Your voice counts. 82%.
11% for B, and 3% for C, and 1% for F range.
I would just say this: 94% of the people seem to be giving this like top 5 episode certification, right? With the 11% who say it's a B to B plus.
Yeah, I love. That's exactly right. But could you tell us about your channel so we can get out of here?
My name is Admiral Teague, and I'm a thief of joy who misleads Star Trek fans and tries to guide people into the understanding that a story well told is the only story worth telling. You may know me from describing the adventures of a certain cowardly bald space robot, and we'll be back with all of our potency to review the wonderful upcoming Strange New Worlds season.
Oh, you're seriously going to do that? Why?
I have a duty to warn you so that other people don't have to watch it. And also, my life is already a hell because I live in New York and I like the New York Jets, who are only on Paramount. So I had to have it already because buildings block TV reception where I am. I had to have it this way. Okay. So since I have Paramount Plus, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at Strange New Worlds with my crew. That's starting June 15th, everybody. Aren't you excited? And I guess I can announce now, Star Trek 14 officially off the production calendar for this year. Sorry, everybody.
Just a little groan at that. The little Jill groan.
Did anybody ever think you'd be happy to hear we'd be getting less Star Trek? I'm sorry, everybody. That's all. I will be watching Strange New World, so you don't have to. Come here, the Saving Star Trek players act out New Trek.
Oh, darn.
And we do what Star Trek is supposed to do. Yeah, right. One thing we do is we do what Star Trek is supposed to do. We have fun.
That's true. You do make it fun.
And we've had Hungry. We had Hungry and yourself on the show, and we're hoping to have both of you back. And Saving Star Trek will go on, and we will save Star Trek.
You're not going to have me back on for Strange New Worlds, bro.
Speaking of which, do you have anything you'd like to share or someone you'd like to shout out or something?
I would like to shout out, obviously this channel, Clobby's channel and the various shows. Captain Finney's channel is always good for deep sort of philosophical, metaphysical dissection of science fiction and various related genres. And we Teague show is great for everything that Teague just expressed. And basically,
Thank you.
I do not support my channel because my channel is basically here to support other channels. So I'm already doing that. And that means I can shut up and let the next person speak so Jill can go on to be super mom for the day.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Can I just put one more link in the chat? My pal
sure.
Ranker Steve comes on sometimes onto Saving Star Trek and gives his views, and you can catch him over on Rumble now. He's doing some real funny stuff over there. So that link's in the chat now.
Oh, and Pop
Okay.
Culture, Pop's not with us. No, maybe he is. I don't know. But Pop Culture's channel is really great, particularly if you're looking at classic science fiction, classic horror, and some of the adjacent classic stuff. He and I are going to be talking about certain things in the future. He and I speak privately, and his analysis of the proper horror films versus jump scares and axe murderers is actually the way to go. So it's a growing channel, but if you like, I know most people here are science fiction, but if you like good horror discussion, Pop Culture Curator's channel is a treat.
Absolutely. And speaking of which, let's hear from Pop Culture Curator. Please tell us about your channel. What you're doing
Thank you,
next.
Jill. Thank you. As Hungry Boy mentioned, we do speak of sci-fi. I do have I have an animated series reviews that Jill helped with that we just completed a few weeks ago. I'm now covering the original series of Lost in Space on Mondays. You'll catch me here on Jill's channel doing her TOS reviews on Tuesday lunch. And then Tuesday evening or tonight is when I do my horror sci-fi reviews at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Tomorrow at 7 p.m. Pacific, we will be catching up with the Castaways on Gilligan's Island. Once again, we're in season 2 of that. And I have a random stream, Rumblings from the Lab with open mic, open topic. And thank you for your time, Jill.
You're welcome. Thank you for showing up today and telling us all. Oh, wait, you didn't get to talk about Leonard Nimoy's contract negotiation, did you?
We can do that next week.
Okay, let's do that next week. We're definitely out of time
My dogs
now.
are about ready to leave live. Yeah, so.
I know. I gotta leave too. Okay, so wait, let's do. Okay, yeah. Okay, so Mikey, wait, where'd you go? You're right there. Okay, so Mikey, you've got a channel too, right? You're doing some things. I don't know. I think that he gave me his channel link. So let me just put that in the chat so at least it's there. Even though today I think maybe he needs to, I don't know, figure out his technical issues.
Seems to be AFK right now.
Yeah, I guess he's
the
AFK,
little circle is not. There we go.
Oh,
Seems to be
hello.
moving now. Is that hello?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, you can hear me, guys? Okay.
I can hear you now, yeah.
Oh, first of all, I want to say, thank you so much, Anti-Derivative Jill, for allowing me to be a guest host on this panel today. I love your channel. I've subscribed to it. Also, Pop Culture Curator's channel, and Hungry's,
Thank you.
and also Admiral T. If I can find his channel, I'll definitely subscribe to it.
My name is my channel
shout out
name.
quickly to Gorillas. Oh, well, there you go. I will definitely subscribe it. As far
Thank
as
you.
like I said, shout outs, I'd like to give one to Gorilla's Random Thoughts. He's always been such a great supporter of all of our channels, including mine. And also want to mention quickly that on my channel, I will be doing a 12th webcam and live stream next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern. That's 4 p.m. Central Time. And we are going to be talking about all things Indiana Jones, all 4 movies, including the upcoming Dial of Destiny. And beware that the day I'm doing it is exactly 2 days and 1 month away from the actual premiere of the movie. So there'll be a lot to discuss on it. I hope you guys check it out. That'll be next Wednesday on the 17th, again at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific Time. There's my channel. Thank you, Jill. Yeah.
You're welcome. Oh, I just checked the private chat and I didn't.
Week, so.
Yeah. I didn't realize earlier that your review got cut short. Pop culture curator, I'm sorry about that.
No problem.
I really missed it. But we do have a trailer for next week, so let's watch that. And if you're a member of the Birdo Prey 5 channel, he's having a member stream right now that you can go check out. And
he is a great Star Trek broadcaster.
Yeah, he is. He's one of my favorites. That's why I mentioned.
And a great wordler.
Definitely. So we'll see you all next time. Thanks for hanging out. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me, Jill.
Captain's log, stardate 3614.9. Mr. Scott has fallen under suspicion of having brutally murdered an Argelian woman.
She's dead, Jeff.
You. And you.
They were to be married.
Prefect, I didn't kill anyone. I couldn't.
How could any man do such monstrous things?
I swear to you, I did not kill your wife or the other ladies.
Fear, anger, hatred. Anger feeds the flame. Oh, there is evil here. Monstrous, terrible evil. Hatred of all that lives. Hatred of women. Reshak!